Mercedes versus BMW. Which vehicle beats the other in which segment? Which brand has a more promising future? We're going to find out here in this comparison video just for you, and going to take a look at Mercedes S-Class versus BMW 7 Series, Mercedes E-Class versus BMW 5 Series, Mercedes GLE versus BMW X5, Mercedes GLC versus BMW X3, Mercedes C-Class versus BMW 3 Series, here also mixed up with an Audi A4 including, and Mercedes CLE versus BMW 4 Series, the coupes. We're going to take a look at the individual comparisons, and at the end of the conclusion we're also going to tell you more about, in general, about the different brands, what is their promising or not promising future, which brand at this moment prevails over the other. Let's find out more together. Let's go.
Welcome to the duel of the two kings, BMW 7 Series versus Mercedes S-Class, top of luxury, here with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Design-wise, here the new 7 Series, relatively high in the front, rather angular design, split headlamps and this huge double or even mono kidney. What do you think? Versus the more traditional design of the Mercedes S-Class. Even if you pick here the AMG line, you have the upright standing star on the hood here, a little bit lower, more classic sedan form. Yeah, that's already a huge difference in the front. We'll tell you all about the technology, driving ourselves and also being driven, the chauffeur driving experience, everything coming up now. Turning indicators. Here with the BMW we have this pulse effect, like a heartbeat. With the Mercedes, more classic, but also beautiful integration. I think both are quite attractive here in the front, aren't they? Here in the side profile, let's talk about length. 5.39 m for the BMW 7 Series or 212 inches. Now only available in the long wheelbase version. There is just this one version. And that means this new length is 10 centimeters or 4 inches longer than the Mercedes S-Class, here also then in the long wheelbase version. There's still a short wheelbase version available in Europe. However, technology advantage for the Mercedes S-Class, both offer rear axle steering, but the S-Class up to 10 degrees. The rear wheels turn into the opposite direction than the front wheels. With BMW is maximum 3.5 degrees, and that makes the S-Class, in parking in and out, basement, garage and so on, so much more agile. Visually, by the way, yes, we have AMG line versus the M Sport Pack, so very comparable. It's just that we have smaller wheels on the S-Class today, 19-inch in an aero design, 21-inch with the BMW 7 Series. In the rear, the design difference is very obvious once again. Contemporary with the 7 Series, but more angular design, and then a more timeless classic sedan rear for the S-Class. Which one do you like better? Here, as for the rear lamps, actually more stretched here and slimmer with the BMW. Let's take a look at the turning indicators. Both have spectacular functions. With the 7 Series is more this pulse effect once again, and with the S-Class we have these these three-dimensional vertical elements inside. Looks also real lovely, doesn't it? Air suspension, by the way, is equipped with both. Key comparison, I think both have something, right? Galvanization feels a little bit more premium than the BMW, is a little bit slimmer, but you can also get this computer key at BMW. Both also offer soft close, but let's still compare the door closing hammering sound. Really subtle with the 7 Series. And with the Mercedes here, the handles fold out, and then let's listen. Also sounds good, but there I think the 7 Series sounds a little bit better. But here also then soft close possible. Seating position in the S-Class, although from the outside it looks lower, the seat itself is more plush. You sit kind of like on the seat, I would say. Steering wheel, you have a little bit more capacitive BS buttons here. In the BMW, it's a mix, I would say. And the animal skin alternative here in the S-Class is just one option with fabric. But overall, the seating comfort, will be very interesting when I directly switch now to the 7 Series. Seating position in the BMW 7 Series, G70 new generation, really super comfortable. The seats give you enough side support. At the same time, they don't cage you in too much. So great compromise. And also this whole driving position, relatively low still, it gives you the feeling that this is still a driver's vehicle. Seating materials, by the way, there's also the so-called Veganza material available. It's a development of Sensación, and in Germany for all versions, in the UK for the i7, in the US only for the petrol engines. Strange decision, but they have this material on a lot of markets, and it's really, just looks the same like this one here, and it's really great. Interior cockpit overview, super clean and high-class materials. The only thing that doesn't feel that good is here, awesome at night with the ambient lighting. It's really amazing. But when you hit the turning indicators, also looks nice, but when you really deeply press it, that's not that cool. But that's kind of like the only flaw. Everything else, what you look, what you feel, it's really high class. Just then again, a lot of blinding by the light here, for example, on the left side, or maybe also here in the lower part with this crystalline lever, stuff that looks cool, but then is giving you some flashes. It's good that in the lower part we can still control the infotainment system with that one. Everything else then also via touch, and also the AC unit via touch. That's what I dislike with both vehicles. Steering wheel I prefer here with the 7 Series because these buttons are kind of integrated as one, but they still give you good haptic feedback, and this then is for real for adjusting the speed. Instruments, modern and clear to read, and you can also change the whole layout. Both vehicles come with a head-up display, here the more subtle one in the 7 Series. Infotainment system in the BMW, horizontal layout. You can argue about the hardware layout and also about the software layout, but what you can't argue about is that the BMW system is more responsive, quicker, and so far showed no errors or bugs at all. This is here the Apple CarPlay integration, Android Auto as well, but both only wireless here. Interior overview with the Mercedes, completely different layout indeed. It's a nice horizontal design element here, and then this screen is vertically attached basically. More high gloss black piano lacquer use. They both have that, but Mercedes just a little bit more here. So the quality of the materials is to me a little bit lower than in the 7 Series. With the digital instruments in the Mercedes, you can still get this classic analog look at least, or like this even more, so you're a little bit more flexible also in the color schemes. And the head-up display available in 2 different trims, and the second one also with augmented reality, and oh cool, it's always nice to see the star here, right? Mercedes has more fancy features. For example, when you switch the digital instrument view, also the infotainment system view changes. So yeah, then you can find your personal favorite style for your S-Class here. The AC unit is still integrated here also, and well, you can reach it better while driving, so that's better accessible here than in the 7 Series. The infotainment system overall is less responsive overall and has sometimes a little more failures here and there, but the overview here is a little bit better, so definitely pro and con. For example, you can also play with the colors of the ambient lighting. That's also really impressive here. Rear seating comfort here in the S-Class. You feel that the bench is a little bit stiffer actually from the material. So the 7 Series comfort in the rear to me a little bit better. However, what I found better here is easier setup, for example, to control the different sun blinds, just here with the window levers up and down, and also for the sun blind behind me or something. It's just a press of a button, and also to push the front seat forward here, just a press of a button. I don't have to go in the screen or something. This is just easier to me, and well, I let this one here unfold. Let's compare when I'm driving here behind. I'm driving here in the seat, still a lot of legroom, of course, just a little bit more than with the G70 BMW 7 Series. And when I can test here the executive driving position now, it is fine for me, but in the Audi A8L and in the BMW 7 Series, I can stretch my legs a little bit more, It's fine, but you feel there's some length difference. It's luxurious enough, definitely. Also here with this middle console, there you can also control everything here in the screen if you like, or use these internal screens, but they're also just an option. The Mercedes sunscreens, they are split in front and rear, and the difference then is that, well, you have this barrier there in the middle, but the front one you can actually open. Rear seating in the BMW, it's extremely comfortable in here, even with the base bench setup. So plush materials and so on, and good ergonomics underneath the seat. And you feel like you have this single seating. Although you have the through bench, you just have more legroom here in the BMW 7 Series. And you can also go for this executive pack that you can hire the calf rest. And you can also go for the optional screen here in the top part, the theater screen. Not really necessary, I would say. Rather use your own iPad or smartphone and so on. But you have more legroom also stretched out in this executive package. And overall, just more comfort here in the rear in the 7 Series, I feel. The basic controls, however, even here of the sun blinds, are all digital here in this screen. And that makes things more complicated, I feel. And when you put down the armrest, this is not the nicest solution here for a luxury sedan. In the 7 Series, you get a fixed glass roof, but then you have no barrier on the middle. And talking about over-engineering, automatic doors are available. And then look at that here. This is to open it from the inside, just like the first push. Then this would be the emergency fail-safe manually opening. And this is the fully automatic opening and closing function. Pressing it here, attention, there we go. Trunk or boot comparison. There's a button here for the 7 Series and underneath here for the S-Class. Liter figure-wise, 550, 540 for the pure combustion engine versions to compare. Kind of equal. Here the S-Class, one thing I do criticize is the sound of the closing and opening mechanism. Just doesn't sound S-Class like. That's maybe hardly C-Class or something, you know what I mean? But actually good space in the width. Here it's just a little bit higher because there's the hybrid battery underneath. So in the pure combustion engine version it would also be deeper. The length here is just a little bit shorter than with the BMW 7 Series. So here this is a meter or 40 inches, and there the BMW is just a little bit longer, but then again it's a little bit more narrow right here. So both overall comparable. Just the closing sound, it's a little bit more premium here with the BMW. Listen to that. Engines, I love it when they have gas struts. Cool shot, right? So they have something in common and also something else is different. Well, they both have 3-liter 6-cylinders, petrol and diesel. Then also 8-cylinder petrol engines, 4.4-liter for the BMW, 4-liter for the Mercedes. Special to the S-Class is that in the Maybach version they offer a V12 and the plug-in hybrid models each. Mercedes has the bigger battery in the PHEV. And then the 7 Series is available as i7. So the pure electric version of the 7 Series is basically the very same vehicle, whereas Mercedes goes with the EQS, which is a separate vehicle then. Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge, starting with the BMW 7 Series in the new generation. Ooh, sport mode. The gears are getting preloaded and let's go! Well, that was 70 to 120 kilometers an hour acceleration, stopped by this Seat Ibiza. Let's go again. Super smooth acceleration. Feels like nothing. 160, 180, and wow, it's so silent here. The car remains so stable. Incredible. 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. It really feels like driving in a normal vehicle at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. This is pure perfection on the German Autobahn here. Wow. I mean, it doesn't shake up at all. Really calm on the steering wheel at the same time. It has a good steering and natural steering input. Recently, one of the best steering inputs at BMW, I really have to say. I always criticize the 3 Series steering input, which feels to me a little bit less natural. The BMW SUVs are also quite good, but here I really like it, So it remains calm when you're driving really fast, but at the same time it has no dead zone area, really cool. And for this large luxury sedan, you still get a somewhat sporty feeling. And that is actually what BMW is about. That even if you buy this large luxury sedan, the focus is still driving yourself. That sometimes the case is that owners here are being chauffeured during the week and then they drive themselves on the weekend. Me personally, I think I would always drive it myself. What about you? Tell me in the comments. Yeah, it's really something to enjoy. Suspension here is a little bit stiffer in the sport mode than standard air suspension. But still, it's on a very good comfort level, so really, really good compromise. The sophistication of the ride has even been increased in this generation. Lane change here feels really nice and sporty, super smooth, and putting in the turning indicators is so much fun. This feedback, you hear this clicking sound, really good haptic feedback. I'm really glad to have that, because we've seen it more and more stuff here is getting touch and everything. I don't like that, also especially to do that while driving. Yes, at least you have this middle controller to do something in the infotainment system without touch, but the climate unit, I tend to control the climate unit while driving. Not sure what about you. Some leave it on 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit and automatic, and that's it, but others do change it, actually. Wow. You always have good power also from the engine. Here a pure 6-cylinder today, we have the diesel today, but this comparison test here is not about comparing the engine versions, it's more about the overall vehicle and the driving feeling. And here really you have to say the core essence of the BMW is it is still a driver's car, although it is this luxury sedan. What about when we change the motorways? That's always a very interesting part. Here we go. Sport mode, there you feel the weight of the large luxury sedan now. So especially when you're a little bit faster in these corners, you can't deny that it's not a sports car, But for this segment, that's what I'm saying, it still feels pretty sporty. At low speeds, by the way, the rear axle steering, if you have that package, plays a large role. Parking in and out, you really need that when you have a tight parking spot or basement garage or something. That massively reduces the turning circle. That's pretty cool. And also feels more agile at lower speeds then. And here, when I'm accelerating out again, super smooth. Of course, as a rear axle dominated platform, it means always when I have all-wheel drive, it's still a rear wheel bias, gets out of the corner very well. Wow, so nice, so smooth. Let's compare the normal driving mode, how that feels on a motorway here. That's here called personal. Now suspension is set on a normal, softer tone. And I'm really looking forward how it is in the comparison to the Mercedes S-Class. If this will be a significant difference then, especially suspension-wise. So when we think about the previous generation, that 7 Series versus S-Class, the S-Class was always more, let's say, softer note, the steering a little bit more, calm and so on. Definitely more the calmness, comfort focus, whereas still here the sporty focus with the 7 Series remains. But is it still the same today? Let's find out. Now driving the Mercedes S-Class, and here, look at that. This is a U-turn. It's incredible. The rear axle steering here acts even stronger than in the BMW 7 Series. Both, of course, in good vehicles, but here, just more degree angle. Wow, this is awesome. And this U-turn there is hardly doable with some compact vehicles. There you have to just take an outside circle, take part of the next street from that. Wow, this is just wow, and makes this huge vehicle just so much more maneuverable inside a city, basement garage, in and out, and so on. Then let's take it here to the sport mode and German Autobahn. Let's go. 70. 120. Ah, nice. 60. And 180. Wow. It's really nice. This is here the 3-liter 6-cylinder combustion engine. In this case, then paired with the plug-in hybrid model, but the battery is at the moment empty, so I can better compare pure combustion engine to combustion engine. But this is not the main focus here about the engine comparison. It's more about how the car is feeling actually. And yeah, the thing is here, if you compare it to the previous generation, also here this S-Class generation feels sportier. And main thing about this is the steering input here. No dead zone area, and in this sport mode also the air suspension gives me a little bit more feedback, and also the steering and throttle input changes. That's very interesting indeed. So before, in that previous generation, there was more gap of this sportiness gap between Mercedes and BMW. Here, a little bit less definitely, but clearly you still feel that the air suspension at Mercedes, and I think for an air suspension decision, is actually quite good. It feels more floaty, you know what I mean? Especially when you go back here, to the normal comfort mode, for example. In this case, then it's called hybrid. So in the normal driving modes, or comfort mode, you just feel like the car is going like this weird, like this in these waves. And usually when I buy an air suspension, I also want to have that feeling. With BMW, it's not bad at all. I'm not saying that. It just feels a little bit sportier. And I think that's, why not doing this different setup then from brand to brand. With Mercedes, it's then different when you go for an AMG model, where then, even if you have the air suspension, would never expect that it's actually an air suspension because it's so stiffly tuned. So it's really like this. You have the Mercedes model, then you have the BMW model, you have the BMW performance models, and then the AMG models by Mercedes when you're talking about the suspension stiffness, So Mercedes always has this huge gap between the normal models and the AMG model. Overall, feeling really good at home, planted also here on the German Autobahn. As for the noise insulation, they're both really good. Somehow I have the feeling that the S-Class does a little bit better. The question is always also where, in which area and so on. Here we have this new technology that they apply this dampening foam already to the raw chassis. They introduced it with this generation of the S-Class, and that is also helping a lot, actually. Really, really good. Both vehicles, like size-wise, don't feel too much apart. Funny thing is here with the S-Class, when you just take a seat and then compare it to the new generation of the C-Class, or also now to the E-Class, you feel like you would be sitting in the same vehicle 3 times, like C-Class, E-Class, S-Class. They are really much alike on the interior. How different it feels rather becomes obvious then when you drive it, because here when you have the larger, longer S-Class, you just feel like you would be steering this boat around in comparison to these smaller models, But indeed, I feel that the Mercedes models from size to size nowadays come way closer than the BMW models feel step by step. We have to see when we soon drive also the all-new BMW 5 Series, also has the i5, recognized pose. Oh, is that like gesture control? Interesting. No, I don't want that. That's the thing about these new vehicles. Something is always happening randomly. So we'll soon also compare the 5 Series and 7 Series, of course, and then we'll see if that still is the case, what I said now. But definitely very interesting. Here, lane changes. There you feel the floatiness of the suspension definitely a little bit more. Yeah, maybe you already see that on camera, and that would not happen in the comfort mode of the BMW. So, yes, what I was suspecting, that there is still more this sporty emphasis in the BMW, and here more this comfort floatiness emphasis in the S-Class. It is still the case, but not that much. So here in the S-Class generation, they made it a little bit sportier. Another difference is also with the BMW, we had 21-inch wheels. Here we have today 19-inch wheels. This is also making a huge difference. So if you want more comfort or more sportiness, that always also depends on the wheel choice. So you should watch out for that and pick the wheel size then according to your liking, what you appreciate more, the comfort or the sporty side. Now it's getting really interesting. Let's see here, switching motorways. Of course, you feel the weight of the vehicle, but the rear axle steering is evening that out a little bit. Interesting. So, that was actually quite good. So, the peculiar thing here is that the S-Class from the suspension setup doesn't suggest that it's so sporty, but when you then speed it up a little bit more and push it into the corners, it feels astonishingly light. So you really have to differentiate here, So the BMW is suggesting more sportiness and is also sporty, but somehow I also felt that when you push it into the corners, you feel the weight a little bit more. And here the S-Class doesn't have the sportier suspension setup, but when you push it into the corners, it's sportier than you think. So that's also something interesting. Whoa. Yeah, good acceleration out here, of course. And the same thing applies to the S-Class. When you have an all-wheel drive model, you always still have a rear wheel bias because of this base setup of the vehicle. So now I keep my hands on steering, but I'm not steering. Car is doing that for me. There we go, automatic lane change complete. I wonder about you, what do you think? Is that really a useful feature, or would you just rather do that yourself? That's what I said. Wow, the S-Class really feels lighter than it actually is. And of course, we also have a being chauffeured comparison, starting here with the 7 Series. And interesting is that when you have these turns at slow speeds, you feel the rear axle steering even more when you're sitting in the rear. That's very fancy, right? Get this middle console and some cup holders. We can also put the smartphone here, for example. And this is a little bit weird solution here, right? Yeah. However, it's really comfortable here in the rear. It feels also somewhat sporty because you are somewhat like caged in, like a single seating. But I think what is a very interesting solution is they have a lot of comfort here on the outside seats, but they still keep the through bench. You can always, of course, have that, but this is here no compromise. Sometimes you have sedans which are really basic as for the through bench, and then only when you get the executive seating, then you have a lot of comfort. But here, it's already in the base rear bench setup that you have good comfort in the rear. The only thing that is not built in this vehicle here is this, this executive function that you can lift the calf rest here. So that is not built in this vehicle, but yeah, I can also live without that. If I push the seat here forward, you already have a lot of space in front of you. That's actually pretty fancy. So yeah, already in this setup you can really enjoy. And yeah, when she's hitting the throttle, you can feel that it has a lot of power. It's really nice. So the interesting thing to me is that this somewhat still sporty character of the vehicle, you can still feel that somewhat in the rear. Of course, you might argue if that's the right approach also for this kind of vehicle, but to me it is always, I like to drive the vehicle myself. I could still enjoy it right here. And some might say, hey, you want to feel some sportiness, and some say you might not want to feel that. So this will be a very interesting aspect, how it will compare in the S-Class. Mercedes S-Class, first plus point here, these automatic seatbelt reachers for the rear seats. Oh, also here I feel the rear axle steering really strong in the rear. The thing is that the S-Class has actually a higher degree where the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction on the rear axle, so you can feel that even stronger than, for example, in a U-turn and so on. What I really like is a separate cushion here with microfiber. That's really lovely. What both cars, of course, have is here this automatic control for the side shade. The 7 Series rear windows were, overall darker tinted already, however, and I can also control this upper shade here. Yeah, it's really funny to do that. Here in the S-Class, the panoramic roof is split, so in the front you can actually open it. In the 7 Series, you cannot open the whole thing to leave fresh air in, but it goes all the way through. And that is the difference here when sitting in the rear. So for rear passengers, the solution of the 7 Series is actually better because you have a clear view to the sky. That's somehow cool. And here you have like this middle barrier where you look at. So for rear passengers, better with the 7 Series with the roof. In the front, of course, it might be cool when you have, possibility to really open that glass roof. Overall, it's also fairly comfortable here. Head area here. This, of course, really cool with this extra cushion. But how the how the legs lay on here. So the seats are a little bit stiffer from the material, I feel. So I also felt a little bit more caged in with the 7 Series from, like this, how the seat is formed. So the normal seating impression is a little bit better with the 7 Series. Here, the difference is that we also have this executive package. I can also put my feet then here on the front. I can also activate it here while driving. That's pretty cool actually. Showed that to you earlier on the interior part, that the seat goes all the way forward and then this calf rest comes out. So that's of course a really fancy feature. It takes a while, and if you ask yourself, does that block the view then for the chauffeur? Yes, it always does. So that's a big problem. But I think manufacturers just say like, hey, it's more important how the rear passenger feels. And yeah, it's a nice function, but I really like that function in the 7 Series as well, where you had this, like this full support then also, here underneath the legs right here. That was pretty cool. And yeah, it's not really very well comparable now, since this one has the pack, the other one doesn't. But what I can say from testing both, with an earlier 7 Series vehicle, is that the length of the interior here for the rear passenger, it's really longer in the 7 Series. And when I'm here, 189 or 6'2", I mean, I can stretch here more or less, but I can more stretch in the 7 Series, and that might also be something. What is plus here for the S-Class is that I feel that the insulation in the rear is a little bit better here with the S-Class. So it feels a little bit more silent. And from the sportiness of the driving, indeed, yes, here we also have 19-inch wheels mount at the moment. With the 7 Series we had 21 inch. The thing is really with the S-Class, you feel from the setup, it feels a little bit more chauffeur-ish, like better noise insulation, and you don't feel so much sportiness, I would say. So I would say I had more fun driving in the 7 Series. And here for the chauffeur function, this one feels more like being chauffeured, you know what I mean? However, then again, suspension-wise, I feel that although we have smaller wheels here, the suspension of the 7 Series was sportier, but not really less comfortable. So overall, both some pros and cons when being chauffeured. Yeah, big question now is, which one would I take to drive myself? Which one would I take when I'm being chauffeured? Let's find out. Now it is time to decide. Which one would you choose? And which one would I keep home with me now? The thing is, on the exterior, the 7 Series more the screaming out design, especially the mono or double kidney in the front, is splitting opinions, and that's what they wanted to achieve. They want people to talk about BMW design. They have indeed achieved that. But the more timeless design is definitely with the S-Class, more traditional and more this classic luxury sedan style. Definitely on the exterior, matter of preference. Also has to do that the 7 Series builds on the same platform than the i7 electric, that you can put the batteries in the floor. Then on the interior, that's very interesting. The quality of the materials is better with the BMW, and also especially the seating comfort, both in the ergonomics and also in the seating materials. BMW offers more animal-free choices, where the S-Class availability of the animal-free choice very, very limited. So overall, the interior is better done by BMW in this case, and especially in this generation. Driving-wise, a bit of a surprise indeed. So on the one hand, in driving, the S-Class is a little bit softer from the suspension setup, so that kind of clears the, we're expecting, the BMW drives sportier than the Mercedes, and the Mercedes is more comfortable. Yes, suspension-wise, softer, a little bit stiffer, sportier. But then suddenly in the corners, the S-Class kind of, was more agile than the 7 Series. That was very surprising. So in driving, the S-Class really accelerated, literally, and was really surprising me on the sporty side. So this generation of the S-Class is, although it doesn't suggest this in looks, is sportier now also in driving, and therefore comes closer to the 7 Series in this setup. But both drive exceptionally well indeed. The winner in today's episode, well, taking also maybe pricing into account, of course you can configure these cars, to the moon basically. But just as an example, as they are here now today, 136,000 for the 7 Series, 190,000 euros for the Mercedes S-Class. Yes, if you then put comparable engine versions and spec this one a little bit higher, you can of course even that gap a little bit, so we always have to take that one into account. But pricing is maybe also not the most crucial thing about this one. To me, the crucial thing today is indeed not the exterior, that's a matter of preference, but the interior seating comfort, especially from the ergonomics, is so just better with the BMW, and therefore I feel more comfortable both driving and also sitting in the rear. That's why it would be the choice here with the BMW today. One of the most crucial comparisons is starting right now. Mercedes E-Class versus BMW 5 Series, both in the new generation. With Thomas Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go! Which one is the best? Here, the Verde Silver colored E-Class in the AMG line in the new generation with a very elegant and more traditional classic look, I would say. If you have Avantgarde or AMG trim, then you have the Microstar pattern right here. Here you would still get an exclusive trim where you still get the classic star standing on the top. Whereas we have the BMW 5 Series here in Brooklyn Grey with the M Sport, so both in this sporty exterior trim comparison. Now you can see the double kidney has become a little bit wider here in this normal combustion engine version. It looks also rather traditional here with the vertical fins. The electric version would not look too different unless you go for the M60 i5. Then the front grille looks really, more menacing actually. But here I think actually a very nice look. M Sport has some black contrasts. If you look at both of the vehicles here from the front, you see that the BMW goes more into a sporty direction, whereas the E-Class has the more classic approach. Which one do you like best here so far? Turning indicator comparison, here in the front you can see the E-Class on the top, really horizontally, and we have the BMW with a different structure, and you have this heartbeat pulsing effect. In the side profile, the length difference is about 11 centimeters or 4 inches, because the Mercedes E-Class is at 4 meters 95 or 195 inches, whereas the BMW 5 Series, especially in this new generation, has become much longer now at 5 meters 06 or 199 inches. The wheelbase difference is 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches. Also, once again, the BMW 5 Series has a little longer wheelbase there. Let's see if that translates into a longer legroom. Once again, in the side profile, the E-Class has the more traditional roundish sedan shape. Both have 19-inch wheels mounted, so also a very comparable choice, both with winter tires here, obviously now winter in Germany. And here, also with the M Sport styling, once again, the Brooklyn Grey color is pretty cool, isn't it? And here the BMW 5 Series in the design shows a more angular approach. Also big difference as for suspension technology. The BMW 5 Series you can get with an adaptive suspension. The air suspension only available on the rear axle if you have the plug-in or the all-electric version. The BMW E-Class or the Mercedes 5 Series, yes of course, the Mercedes E-Class offers a full optional air suspension, of course also heavier in the price and so on, but that is then on both axles actually. But let's see if the 5 Series adaptive suspension can even that out, basically, that difference. And also rear axle steering, both do offer that. However, Mercedes steers 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction, whereas the 5 Series only goes 2.5 degrees in the opposite direction. So the E-Class fakes a shorter wheelbase than the 5 Series does. In the rear, they also set on different stylings with the Mercedes E-Class, a little bit more playful. Here, look at that, the rear tail lamp signature here in this Mercedes star design, pretty cool idea. However, then in the bottom, Autogefühl fake exhaust police alert, because here this is just a pure fake exhaust. And in this case, the BMW 5 Series, more this German Bauhaus style, more angular design, also horizontally drawn tail lamps like this. M Sport has the black contrast in the lower part. I also found it interesting that the base models of the new 5 Series, they look more classy, more elegant. The M Sport, of course, always adds this more menacing look. And we can see here, clean design, no fake exhaust at all. Turning indicators, here actually the BMW is a clear winner. This looks just fancier, whereas with the E-Class it looks a little bit old school, or what would you say? But overall from the exterior, we'll of course have exterior, interior and driving today. So first chapter, which one would be your favorite just from the exterior? Which one then later interior? And which one in driving? You tell me in the comments, please. Key fob comparison, Mercedes and BMW, obviously. So the BMW one is a little bit lighter. The Mercedes one has more metal ingredients, therefore it feels heavier and a little bit classier. Then the door handles here with the Mercedes, they are kind of integrated. You slide them and they come out like this, or also when you close the vehicle or open the vehicle. Also when you approach the vehicle, then they sometimes automatically come out and have this illumination that looks pretty fancy, but to me sometimes a little bit too complicated, I feel, and also the feedback they give is sometimes a little bit weird actually. Inside of the door, actually good build quality everywhere, just the high gloss black overload here I don't like that much, and also they don't have haptic feedback here. In comparison to the S-Class actually, they step up the game in the E-Class, we have to say. Also in the lower part is all soft touch on the outside part, inside part covered with felt, just here behind the back part not, but overall they thought about the details. Steering wheel, this is the AMG line with 2 horizontal spokes, and once again hashtag capacitive BS buttons. The normal steering wheel would look different, has this slot design in the lower part and has one area left and right each. Then the seats, this one here is animal skin equipment. They also have a full Artico high-grade leatherette seat, but they don't push it that much and also don't offer alternatives for the high trims and so on. But the overall seating comfort, as for the ergonomics of the seats, is good, with one exception. In the very, very low back part of the seat, there is something, you know, like, I don't know, maybe from that base seat, like metal or something, which can be kind of hard, like on the very low part. It's not sure why that is. I think they should work on that, but overall you find good comfort. And 186 or 6'9", 6'9", 186. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not drunk. So 189 or 6'2". I was mixing up the numbers totally. I'm sorry about that. I'm just human. So now there's enough headroom left. There's also a panoramic roof available. At the moment it's, you know, the shade is open and you can actually also still open that. So this is available for the E-Class everywhere. In the 5 Series you will just get a small panoramic roof you can open in the US or Northern American market. Otherwise you'll have fixed panoramic roof or nothing. But here you can pick between nothing and the one always you can open worldwide. Interior cockpit overview, starting with the Mercedes here. Wow, kings of ambient lighting for sure. I love it. Do you find it too much? Tell me in the comments. Of course, different colors are available, like this, or maybe also a green one to the Verde Silver exterior color. The only thing is that in this case, I sometimes indeed put the brightness for the front light strip there a little bit lower, because at night then it is blinding in the screen. Then we have this layout here, digital instruments. It's kind of like, you know, like offset a little bit. Then one huge screen here, and you have this super screen. This is an option. Otherwise, you would have the screen here and then the decor element there, which I found actually better, because passenger screen, not sure if there's so much use for that actually. Or what do you think? Would you use a passenger screen? Temperature control. The bad thing is here you always have to do 2 clicks. One here and then plus minus or slide it. Yeah, in the other Mercedes infotainment system you just can click plus and minus and it's always in that position. But here in the E-Class, not sure why they went for this software solution then. And this digital vent control, I think over-engineered. Why would it need to be moved electronically? Just because Tesla has introduced something like this? And I mean, manual is just fine. At least you can control it manually still. Infotainment system has this large tile view, and Apple CarPlay or Android Auto has this kind of integration, wired or wireless. And the head-up display, you can pick different stylings also for. Middle console here. What's cool here, you do not have to pick black piano lacquer. You can also go for this structure, this bright carbon fiber-like structure, I would say. Slide it open. Then the cup holders, they are not really sufficient because they don't keep heavier bottles or higher bottles tight enough. Inside of the rear doors, all soft touch materials here, just that they use the same thing that they use in the front and then black everything out. Really? But what's cool is also here, rear doors, lower part, soft touch here, also felt on the inside. That's definitely really good. And then you can see here the rear legroom. It works for tall adults, but it's not that much considering the length of the vehicle. Headroom does exactly fit. I can put a hand over my head. And here, this shoulder arm area is kind of narrow, so it is not ideal for rear passengers. It's okay, but considering, again, the length of the vehicle, you should have more space, I feel, and also a large middle tunnel you have here. A little bit more legroom here in the BMW 5 Series. This recess works a little bit better, also for tall adults. And yeah, it's also a hand above my head here. So I think the difference is not that large, but just a little bit better than here with the 5 Series. However, then here from the materials at the inside of the doors, there once again the E-Class leads it. 5 Series here, this is then the solution where it is aerodynamic. At the same time, it's not that complicated, so I prefer these door handles than the inside of the... Wait a minute, door closing sound we have forgotten. BMW, that's solid. And the E-Class, both nice, but the E-Class has this kind of old school, like a G-Class, like closing mechanism, but both are cool. Back to the 5 Series, here so far so good, different styling for sure, but then in the lower part, this is here hard pack on the outside and also on the inside. Yeah, cost saving at that price, not so sure, but there will be a price difference later on, I'll talk about that. And then the interior, here this is then the M Sport steering wheel. It has one catch because the base steering wheel would also feature vegan material, which is actually better in the material choice, I feel at least when I tested it. This one not available then, this is then animal skin. However, the seats are animal free, and this is where BMW is actually going forward and leading, because the material itself is actually softer, plush, and also more breathable than the animal skin material that they offer themselves and also that Mercedes is offering. So this is actually pretty cool. So the seat comfort from the cushioning and the so-called Einsitzhöhe, listen and repeat, Einsitzhöhe, like the very top part that goes down, this is better here with the BMW, especially with the comfort seat. You also get the sport seat. I have tested both. Trust me, take the comfort seat always. It's way more comfortable, as the name says. Headroom, tough comparison because this one here is the one with fixed roof. Remember, Northern American market gets a small openable roof. Other than that, it's a fixed panoramic roof, but with a shade then. Interior cockpit overview with the BMW 5 Series, here with a more horizontally drawn screen unit, curved screen, 2 units. And then you might wonder, wait a minute, this looks different than the recent i5 review. Yes, indeed. The i5, the plug-in hybrid versions, and in the Northern American market, the 540i exclusively get this light bar we also know from the i7 or from the 7 Series and so on. This one here, normal combustion engine, and most versions then have this more simplified look. It's actually cool when you hit the hazard lights here, then you still see this where the ambient lighting appears, for example. So, but I don't think it's a bad thing, because the other one, this light bar, is also splitting opinions. But I found that in both cases they have this split here. They have this offset here. It should go further like this, somewhere here, like in the 7 Series. Oh, what do you think about this? Difference, E-Class 5 Series here, the steering wheel is way thicker in the 5 Series. Infotainment system here, at least you can directly press plus and minus, but Mercedes can just use a different software version. I hope they will. But here for seat heating and heated steering wheel, you always have to go then in 2 steps, whereas with Mercedes I can activate directly with the button at the inside of the door. Then the rest of the infotainment system has this kind of app overload, I feel, so just too complicated from the whole system. Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration here looks a little bit nicer, I feel, but just available wireless, no cable connection possible. Digital instruments here look like that, completely different layout. See why driving a diesel can still make sense. And of course you also get a head-up display. Both have inductive charging pads, which are also cool, so this is featured in both vehicles, that's cool. Cup holders here are a little bit better in the 5 Series. Overall here a more open atmosphere directly. And this is a crucial difference here with the BMW. You can still control the infotainment system from below. Now to the trunk comparison. Let's open both and start with the Mercedes E-Class, 540 liters. Here the width, good meter of 40 inches, also between the wheel arches then, and the overall length is about 115 in meters or 45 inches. Well usable, and you can easily fold the seats from here. Click, click button, and it goes through immediately. Just this hard plastic part here, I don't like it that much, but the folding mechanism is really good. Then with the BMW 5 Series, 20 liters less at 520 liters. The length here, however, is just a little bit longer, 117 or in meters or 46 inches. Of course, it's also a longer vehicle. And the width here, that one actually is limited in this lower part here. So here between the wheel arches, just about 92 centimeters or 36 inches. That's why it also has less in the liter capacity. And folding mechanism, you have to go here on the top, but then you have to push through with luggage or like this. So this folding mechanism is not as luxurious as with the E-Class. Engine comparison, both use 4 and 6 cylinder petrol and diesel engines. Main technology difference is that the plug-in hybrids for the E-Class have a bigger battery, and also as for the all-electric version, BMW has the i5, which runs from the same assembly line, whereas the E-Class has a separate model with the EQE. On the combustion engine side, we are testing the ICE or ICE models here today, in this case then with the E220D, and this one here is the 520D, so the 2-liter 4-cylinder diesels. Both have around 200 horsepower, but the E-Class has the higher electric boost. Both are mild hybrid, and the E-Class also has more torque. However, since the BMW 5 Series is a little bit lighter, this one is better in the acceleration figure, 7.3 seconds and 7.6 seconds. Right, let's start with the E-Class, and here U-turn first. Wow, look at that, 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. The rear axle here with the rear axle steering, opposite direction of the front wheels. That's impressive. So, and that U-turn there, I can hardly do that with way smaller cars. So that is really impressive. And of course here the rear axle steering goes further than with the BMW. We'll soon compare it with the 5 Series, how it is there. Both very same comparable engines. Next is acceleration. And for that we go to the sport mode. We can select it here below. The pressing mechanism is not the best, however, but I can still press it down there. Or alternatively, I press it in the screen. That's possible. From 50 kilometers an hour, let's go. $100. $150. Still going. 180. Plop, that's 190. So almost 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Doesn't feel too quick. It's also one of the entry-level engines though. And the BMW will be a little bit quicker, at least on paper, it says. Let's see about that very soon. And you might wonder, that's a little bit strange really, because the Mercedes here has a little bit better electric boost, has more torque. So a little bit more horsepower as well. Why is that? Well, the Mercedes here is about 140 kilograms or around 300 pounds heavier than the BMW in the very same spec. And that is the reason why the BMW is on paper a little bit quicker, but we'll soon find out how it feels in comparison. Of course, for most use cases, it will be absolutely fine. Oh, there's a new C-Class in comparison. They look pretty much alike now, C-Class, E-Class, S-Class, don't they? What do you think? Now here, motorway driving. In sport mode, have a little bit more feedback from the steering wheel. It reacts quite quickly, and that is unusual for Mercedes. So if we compare previous generation E-Class to this generation E-Class, the clearest difference is that it now feels sportier in the ride, especially from the steering. When I do a lane change, for example, see here I hardly have to turn the steering. In the previous generation, that was different. So more sensitive, that steering now. And the overall ride is also sportier, also with the air suspension here. There's also a difference here, 5 Series E-Class. Here I have a full air suspension as an option. That gives me that very cool, typical E-Class ride as well. I can also go back to the comfort mode, then the air suspension is a little bit softer. And although this E-Class has become sportier with this generation, we still have some kind of comfortable, floaty ride. Then assistance systems, let's set it here to the cruise control in the adaptive mode, and also the active lane keeping assist. See here, this motorway bridge is a little bit bent to the left. And look at how smooth the active steering goes. You can hardly see it moving, and it still keeps this slide left corner, so a high elaboration from this assistance system. Let's see the automatic lane change, how that one works and is induced. Oh, wait, sorry, I need to tip it. Oh, that still worked? Interesting, look at that. I always thought I can just tip it and then it does it. But here, see here? Lane change to the left, also accelerates doing that. Wow. But it even worked when I hammered in the... Yeah, so do you know what I mean? So I first thought it's only with tipping, but now it obviously also works with... Yeah, it both works. So either tipping it, the turning indicator, or hammering it in. So that both works. Interesting. So and look at that, how elaborated that is. So that's really, really impressive how good the assistance systems are overall. You really feel at home here on the German motorway. The E-Class is also one of the Autobahn vehicles. You just feel that here. 1 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Such a good insulation here. We hardly hear anything from the outside. That's super impressive. It's extremely silent. Leah's already getting a little bit sleepy because she's so relaxed. Yeah, that's always a good sign as well. So when you see that your passengers are just relaxed, even if you did a recent acceleration or so, wow. So this is such a great ride here, and you really have to think about, also comparing to the Mercedes S-Class, what is the S-Class delivering more than the E-Class here? And I have to say, space in the rear for chauffeur reasons. Everything else, the E-Class is just way more than enough. I mean, and also, some of the tweaks, material choice and so on, to me seem better in the E-Class than in the S-Class, told you earlier. So, yeah, it seems to be also here with the driving part that the E-Class is once again the sweet spot in the Mercedes portfolio lineup. But again, the question is, what about the 5 Series? So we already felt that this one here is a little bit sportier now in this generation. And that has always been the thing, that E-Class more comfortable, floaty ride, 5 Series sportier and so on. That was the main difference. But is it still the case? We're going to find out very soon. But before that, crucial for that is here this motorway switch. Once again, we go back to the sport mode. At least it only took me one click, even though I had to look down. Here now, S corner basically, going left. Yeah, it feels a lot of fun, pretty cool. Also enough torque from that engine, accelerating out. In the S mode, also usually in lower gear. Yeah, it is a lot of fun to drive it as well. Now in the corner, really nice. Rear wheel drive, or even if you had the all-wheel version, you would still keep the rear wheel bias. Now I accelerate out of the corner. What a nice and smooth ride. Beautiful. There we go. So even though it's not the most powerful engine, 120, it's still a lot of fun and way more than enough. 140 kilometers an hour, 150. So here we are already pretty quick now on the motorway, and even here at these higher speeds, 160 kilometers an hour, it's remaining very silent. Now this transverse bump is coming. There we go. Hardly feel it, although it's here in the sport mode, the suspension. So great job from the suspension. There it is, like when you have this wave in the road, and the air suspension is evening it out very well, so it's comfortable and sporty at the same time. Both are equipped with 19-inch winter tires here, so it's also very well comparable, and it's also a good choice here. Wow. So you have to ask yourself, what else can you do better in the driving part? It is fun, it is somewhat sporty, it is very comfortable, it is silent, it is super refined. The seats are also fine. However, I told you earlier, like this very, very lower area, depending on how you touched it with your back and how your body posture is, cannot be ideal. Overall, it's okay. But I think there maybe the 5 Series can have an edge on the E-Class from the seats, from the seat ergonomics itself. That could be something. But everything else, wow. The air is getting thin for the BMW 5 Series. The Mercedes E-Class is now also sportier and still gets this typical E-Class driving feeling. Wow. Really impressed definitely with this one. Can the 5 Series do anything against this? Now to the BMW 5 Series. Let's see here this U-turn. It did work, but it was close. So you feel here, first of all, longer wheelbase. This 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches longer wheelbase. And also the rear axle steering just goes 2.5 degrees in the opposite direction. Rear axle, the front wheels, not 4.5. And that's why it still worked, and it is, let's say, agile enough in U-turns, but the Mercedes E-Class just has an edge there. Yeah, and then, said, a little bit longer wheelbase, also a little bit longer overall length, 11 centimeters, or like 4 inches. So, yeah, it does also feel a little bit larger overall, but that might also be, like the architecture of the hood and so on. I feel that the E-Class has actually, just, let's say, a lighter feeling visually. This one here is lighter on paper as for the real weight figure. As I told you earlier, like 140 kilograms or 300 pounds. Let's see if we feel anything of that while driving. Let's go to the sport mode for acceleration here. I can also select it with this drive select, and then the side bolsters go a little bit tighter. We start from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. That's 120. 140. 150. 160. Wait a minute. Where's my watch? Time will tell. What I actually want to show you now is the direct comparison, because I was just in the sport mode now, but being with BMW, the special thing is you have to, for the sports shifting, at least to be more enhanced, also pull down that shifting lever, and then it says S in the instruments, so that gives you then the sportiest shifting, and then let's repeat this acceleration. See, I think there will even be a second difference or something. From 50 kilometers an hour, let's go. 120. 150. 180. There we go. So interesting. That difference there. Yeah, I think that mechanism doesn't make any sense. It's also really silent. I mean, it's very windy outside today on both driving parts, and we hardly hear anything of that on the outside. And we also can set, by the way, easily or deactivate that speed limit warning here for the new EU regulations. Press and hold the set button. With Mercedes, it's press and hold the mute button or deactivate it in the screen. Or here with BMW, press this lower button and then here press the warning for speed limits off. So our BMW and Mercedes, they have both thought of that. How customers can deactivate these annoying new EU regulation thing. And hardly anyone else. Tesla is offering it with one click on the display, but then there's no one yet who's offering similar hotkeys solution so far. It also is a great Autobahn vehicle. I can already tell you that so far. Let's change the lane here. Yeah, very well done. Here also not much work from the steering wheel is needed. Nice tuning also of the brakes. Wow, it also feels absolutely flawless. Suspension-wise, there is no air suspension offered here, at least not full for both axles. Remember that from the EV version and the plug-in hybrid version, due to different weight and so on, that you can level it out better. They have then rear axle air suspension, but not fully. And here we don't have air suspension at all at this moment. However, it's equipped with the optional adaptive suspension by BMW, and that one is a very, very good suspension. So it also adapts here in the sport mode, a little bit stiffer, and when I go back then to my normal personal driving mode, then it's a little bit softer. And overall, it's that good that you don't really miss an air suspension. However, the driving feeling is then somewhat different, E-Class to the 5 Series. So in the E-Class, you have this typical, I would call it like a nose-rolling feeling. It's something that has been actually ever since like the W123. I feel that's a very special, unique E-Class feeling. When you look to the hood and the car is like rolling in a good way, like on the longitudinal axle. And here the BMW feels a little bit more sportier balanced, I would say. Steering is really direct in both cases. However, I have to say that maybe I even have a little bit more steering feeling with the Mercedes. So both react very quickly, definitely. But I feel that the Mercedes is, a little bit more natural at the same time. So that's a very interesting finding, isn't it? Check out the cruise control, also with an active steering assist. The assistance systems are ready. So here also very smooth transition from the steering wheel. And here I also have this special highway assist. I can also induce this active lane changing like this. Yeah, see here, also flawlessly done. Nice one. And in our earlier review of the i5, we could also see that I can even induce that when the vehicle is ready for that, just with looking to the side. So they're rolling out that feature in a couple of markets, and that is also a very impressive feature we could test at an earlier stage then. Very, very cool. If you haven't seen that, you should check out that review as well. Back to the vehicle itself, German Autobahn, the motorway, definitely feels at home. The longer wheelbase maybe gives you some kind of calmness, yes. Then the seats are just awesome. Here this vegan leather is really very soft, gives you a lot of comfort. Also the cushioning, this so-called Einsitzhöhe, listen and repeat, Einsitzhöhe, like the height of the upper seating part is better here, softer cushion. In the BMW 7 Series or the i7, it is even higher, so that they can still have a differentiation between 7 Series and 5 Series. Manufacturers do that they can still justify, because I said with the E-Class, I don't see any reason to go for an S-Class, I even feel better in the E-Class. Here, 5 Series versus 7 Series, I feel because of the higher Einsitzhöhe, the 7 Series is even more comfortable, So here I would have a little bit more difference between 5 Series and 7 Series. Let's go here to the sport mode once again. This S combination, also a lot of fun, great control over the vehicle. Here I feel that the 5 Series is a little bit lighter and more agile, I would feel. So, although I agree a little bit more with the steering in the Mercedes, Leah is flying all over the place. You see what's happening. The BMW tempts me to drive a little bit sportier. Here, acceleration out. The diesel here in this case is reacting a little bit quicker. And the 5 Series just tells me, acceleration here 140 now. Oh, you felt that bump? That was evened out by the air suspension better in the E-Class. And here now I'm just quicker at speed with that engine here. Yeah, very interesting. And now that's that's so nice. Citroën Chuvство, the 2CV. It said Politente. It was like a German wordplay between like police and the duck. Yeah, it's hard to get it as non-German, but that's why the white green paint of the 2CV imitating past police vehicles. They were green in Germany before. Now they're all blue. European harmonized and so on. So back to the 5 Series. I went back to the comfort mode now. So the sport mode there, the suspension was kind of stiff and didn't even out things that well. So definitely that air suspension from the Mercedes gives me more balance and more span between sportiness and comfort. Still, the suspension here is also really great. Using the turning indicator, you know, there's this saying that BMW drivers don't use them at all. That's like this, you know, like this BMW drivers meme. Hey, they don't ever use turning indicators. But I feel they've done everything that it's fun to do that, because, wow, hammering them in is so awesome. So you can, of course, always do this tipping function. Yeah, that's possible. At the same time, it's just so much more fun to really hammer them in, because they give you such a great feedback. It's so much fun to do that. So, yeah, you also feel like in the E-Class, I was more like, yeah, even though it's sporty from suspension now, I'm super relaxed and everything is super comfortable and silent and so on. And this is also comfortable and silent in a way. But the 5 Series is just a little bit more engaging. And you can turn it into a positive when that's the thing that you seek. Or on the other hand, you could also say, yeah, I don't want to be tempted. I want that to be this more relaxed driving. You know what I mean? It was kind of clear that it was a very close race here today. But which one would I take home? Which one would I recommend to you? And which one would you take home? Tell me in the comments. I have to say, both are really on top of their segment. Excellent vehicles, no doubt. And you can't really say that one is bad or one is good or something. However, I do have a clear decision for you here today still. On the exterior, I think it is definitely personal preference. The BMW has this more sporty, angular look, whereas the E-Class goes more into a classic, traditional, elegant direction. So that just depends on what you prefer. On the interior, the stylings are also really different, and I think it's good that both have their unique positions actually. The BMW 5 Series has more legroom in the rear. It's also the longer vehicle, has a little bit more wheelbase, so that's actually no wonder. But that might be something you might want to consider if you're driving with rear passengers, you know, a lot of times. As for the seating materials, BMW has better and more choices of animal-free and more sustainable materials. So that's a plus point for the BMW. Seating comfort is good with both actually. So that also depends a little bit on the body posture. Surprisingly, I found the user interface a little bit easier with the Mercedes E-Class. You get along with that a little bit quicker. And it's a little bit more straightforward. So I do prefer the user interface in the Mercedes. As for the driving, well, that is also a surprise. Before, it was always, yeah, okay, the BMW is the sporty one, the Mercedes is maybe the more comfortable one. Now Mercedes, with the new generation, as for the steering setup and the suspension, is more fun to drive than the predecessor actually, and also sportier feeling. So that kind of evens out the balance a little bit. However, it is still the case that the BMW 5 Series is a more engaging car to drive. It tempts you more to drive sporty, whereas the E-Class has this typical floaty feeling, especially if you go for the optional air suspension. Overall, I have to say, since the rear axis steering acts in a wider way, it helps you more when parking in and out and so on. And you have this nice, floaty, comfortable ride. And I also feel it's a little bit more silent, overall more comfortable, especially for passengers. At the same time, you don't lose too much sportiness. So overall, I would today go for the Mercedes E-Class with the combination of this typical E-Class floaty ride. At the same time, I have driving fun and the better user interface. However, the BMW still has a good point with the seating materials, with the overall comfort it offers, and also with the engaging ride. Definitely a very close call. That was just a spontaneous gut decision. This is all when price doesn't play any role. However, if we then take pricing into account, these test vehicles here that are very comparable as they are spec'd are 84,000 euros for the BMW 5 Series and 104,000 euros for the Mercedes E-Class, so 20,000 euros difference. And then of course you have to ask yourself if the E-Class is 20,000 euros better. So if I could freely pick and same price, I would go for the E-Class, but 20,000 euros difference, Well, I mean, of course, you also have to look at leasing rates. They might differ from here to here. Yeah, but definitely my gut decision was for the E-Class. This time it was the Mercedes. Mercedes GLE versus BMW X5. Who is the king of premium SUVs? We're going to find out for you here today together with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with this super interesting comparison. We already had Mercedes GLC versus BMW X3. We had the S-Class versus 7 Series, E-Class against the 5 Series, and always it turned out differently. How will it turn out today? Here we start with the Mercedes GLE. Both have been facelifted quite recently, actually. This one is here the AMG line, so you have a sport here accentuation in the lower part and one horizontal spoke here in the grille and this beautiful micro star pattern. There's also the base version available. It will have 2 spokes here and not such a sporty graphic in the lower part. And actually, I would say for the GLE, I would prefer it like this here in the AMG line. Or what would you prefer? With the BMW X5. This is the X line. Since the facelift, this is also the base look with a more brighter look, kind of off-road accentuation-ish, I would call it that way. But you can also get the M Sport pack. Then you have sportier design, especially here in the lower side graphic. There's even an M Performance parts available that makes it even sportier, but maybe too much. So I would pick them as they stand here right now. The X5 as the X line, more the off-roadish look, but with the GLE, the sportier look with the AMG line. Or what would you go for? Well, when we take a look at the side profile and about the length, they are both 194 inches in length. So 4 meters 94 and 4 meters 92, so more or less the same in length. Also 19 to 22 inch wheels. These here are 20-inch wheels with the BMW. On the Mercedes GLE we have 21 inch, so a little bigger, sportier look. Suspension-wise it's really interesting. So the BMW starts with an adaptive suspension already, and then it goes optional to an air suspension. Special thing is that here is also optionally rear axle steering available. With the GLE, you upgrade from the standard suspension to the air suspension as well, and then optional, the e-active body control that you can also lean the car into the corners. We also have it equipped here today. I'll tell you more about it if that's really necessary. Just rear axle steering is not available here with the Mercedes GLE. So maybe in the US it doesn't make too big of a difference, but in Europe it would actually, especially for narrow city situations. Then towards the rear, the facelift also upgraded there a little bit here for the GLE with the more modern graphic. There we go. And Autogefühl fake exhaust alert, because these here are clear fake exhaust for the GLE, whereas the X5 has fake exhaust tips, but the real exhaust does run through here, through these tips. In the X line, once again, you have these brighter accentuations in the lower part. I think overall a very cool look. And also here the tail lamps very horizontally drawn. Turning indicators indeed way different with the BMW since the facelift in this arrow design with a pulsing effect. Mercedes more in a classic style. The colors, by the way, high-tech silver for the Mercedes and Blue Ridge Mountain for the BMW. Which one would you go for from the exterior, BMW or Mercedes? Tell me in the comments. These are 2 key fobs. They both have a very nice styling. Which one would you prefer? The Mercedes one is a little bit heavier, the BMW one is a little bit lighter, and door closing sounds. GLE first. That's a nice sound. Inside of the door, soft touch here, a little bit softer for your elbow. Inside door pockets, however, hard packed. There's just this rubber bottom, so no felt on the inside. Interior, let's go here. Mercedes GLE. Since the facelift, you now have these horizontal lines here as an additional design element. And I talked to Leah about that earlier, and she actually suggested that it looks like sunshades on a house or on a flat on the outside. So I think it's a matter of preference. I found it actually quite cool, I have to say. Then you also get this soft touch dashboard, a lot of air vent design definitely here. Then a carbon fiber decal element, of course you can pick different ones. What I prefer with the GLE that although it has been facelifted, you still have the manual climate control here, so you can easily control it while driving. I do prefer that. Actually, BMW had that, but deleted it for the facelift. 2 times 12.3 inch, has also been updated then here in the software, in the infotainment system. Pretty clean design. This lower touchpad here, I would prefer a real turning knob for that one though. So this, you can control it like this, or then as touch here in the screen actually. You also have some nice off-road gauges, by the way, not only here in the main infotainment system, but also then here in the instruments. Then middle console is like with these two, like off-road to hold tight things. Then air suspension you can put up and down here. Split armrest with USB-C charging underneath, and also nice closing sound. A lot of high gloss black then here as the cover. Slide it open, then you have adaptive cup holders. They work pretty well. You can also here move them a little bit more open and then push them here and then they go down. Why not? Inductive charging pad also in the front and 2 more USB-C chargings. Then the steering wheel has been updated. Here in the AMG design, it means 2 horizontal spokes. However, now in the facelift, hashtag capacitive BS buttons. So it looks cleaner, but to control them and swipe in the head-up display or the instrument menu sometimes fails. And you also have a head-up display, and you can even pick different modes for this one. Seats here in the GLE, animal skin spec. However, the Artico leatherette would also be available. In general, the material is quite stiff and quality-wise cannot keep up with the BMW. Indeed, it's a good comfort in general. Here, headroom 189, 602, a lot left. There is a panoramic roof available, by the way, if you like. And this is the problem. So here in the middle console, this is softer. But then this one is not entirely hard, but definitely harder. And sometimes your elbow is exactly here. And that is actually too hard for your elbow while driving. So this is a design fail from the positioning. Rear seating. The inside of the doors, by the way, is also soft touch on the top part. That's nice. However, the door pockets, neither in the front nor in the rear, are covered on the inside, both hard pack. For that price, really. However, then the rear seating, you fall a little bit backwards on that bench. We have a lot of legroom. Look at that. So a lot of legroom left, even if a tall driver is driving, and headroom is also no problem at all. A lot of space here and also quite good in the comfort. I'm really looking forward how it does compare to the X5. Inside of the rear door, same theme here. Top soft, lower part hard pack, and then seating position in the rear. Since we also have the sensor fin here, it's way softer, more comfortable. Indeed, also for the rear passengers. Wow, it's way more comfortable here in the X5 just from the seating itself. Headroom, there's some left here too, but the GLE had more headroom than the X5, and also you can see a massive difference in legroom. So the GLE has way more legroom here. However, then the seating comfort, especially for tall adults, is actually better than the X5. It still is okay from the space here. Yeah, the question is, what is more important to you, more legroom or the better seating comfort itself on the surfaces? Door closing sound with the X5. Also really nice. Couldn't really say which one I prefer. It's both indeed cool. Then inside of the doors, also soft touch here everywhere. Yes, also good build quality. Here inside of the door pocket, also hard packed with both vehicles. That's disappointing indeed. Then the cockpit, this is here the normal steering wheel. There's also an M Sport available. It looks sporty, but I would actually prefer this one because it just looks cleaner in a way. The X5 still has real buttons on the steering wheel and with a nice clicking sound. So I would prefer this then in that case. Seats. These ones are the sensor fin seats, so they are animal-free, more sustainable, animal-friendly, and also the so-called Einsitzhöhe, like like this top bolstering here, how it goes deep in there, and also the quilting on it. Black or also bright styling available. These ones are standard actually for the X5, and also the best in comfort overall. Are actually among the most comfortable seats in the whole industry at this moment, both from ergonomics and from the surface. So this is very well done, and indeed way more seating comfort than in the GLE. Also here, this lower part here, you can put this one a little bit longer than for long legs. It's also very helpful, and you can even adjust just not only like the whole back part of the seat, but only here the very top, just the very top area you can move backwards or forward. Cockpit in the front of the X5, decor element here in wood, isn't Leah's favorite. She says it looks a little bit too old school. I love the wood deco elements. However, I usually prefer the matte wood and not the shiny wood. But nevertheless, you can also pick, like non-wood deco elements, different choice available. Since the facelift, you also have this illuminated X5 badge here and a new mechanism here to control the middle air vents. And this one screen design now in a curved way, 12.3, 14.5, so a little bit bigger on the right side, bigger than with the GLE. The thing is, it looks cool and modern. However, the AC unit is now in the screen, and that's what I don't like. Before it was here, so pre-facelift. Then again, the Apple CarPlay connection, the wireless one, is better now with the facelift because there's a new software version. So there's pro and con coming with that facelift here. Then in the lower part, that's actually cool. There's still a turning and pressing knob where you can also control the infotainment system with. I prefer it here in the BMW. You slide this one open. Also adaptive cup holders. They're also heated and cooled if you like. Inductive charging pad. However, this one is not cooled. This is a problem. The phone does overheat when inductive charging. Also a split armrest opening here with some space and USB-C charging. And the thing is that here, I don't have a problem with the elbow because it's always in that area. I'm never with the elbow on that area in the front. So here it's always soft when you rest your elbow like this. Headroom, by the way, also plenty available. Oh, here also with a nice microfiber ceiling. Digital instruments look like this. They come alive when you start up the vehicle, and then you also can have an RPM meter if you like. On the left side would be the speed, but you also have it digitalized in the middle part. And you also get a head-up display. And now Leah is showing us the sun visor. Here you can actually make it a little bit longer in the X5. Also nice microfiber covering here for the sun blind. So that's good. It's also the same in the GLE. Now in the GLE, yeah, material-wise, no comparison actually, so this is way cheaper from the material indeed. So with the BMW it was like soft microfiber, here is harder. And could you make it longer actually?
No.
Was it? No, well, not possible. So yeah, that's a point for the X5 then. Yes, for the trunk, it's interesting here, the X5 has this split, so there's one part in the top and then you can move down the second part right here. And this is maybe cool like for picnic situations because you can really sit down here and have a nice picnic and so on. Of course, you can also let it just up and take things in and out. Size-wise, it doesn't make too big of a difference. 650 liters for the X5, a couple of liters less for the GLE, but doesn't make any major differences. Width here, 1.10 meters or 43 inches, that's good. And the length here is also a little bit over 1 meter or 40 inches, that's good. As well as for the height, this is like 80 centimeters or 31 inches. By the way, pretty cool. Look at that. Here my suitcase is lying on that, and this here has a gas strut like underneath the cover. That's amazing, right? And then you can put more things in there, or maybe a spare tire, and also like how it clicks in here. That's cool. However, facelifts do not always bring good things. So here they removed this remote folding mechanism. So to fold the seats then I have to go around in the X5. Yeah, and I didn't have to do that before. It's always a nice effect, like, see here that it's both closed and simultaneously. Sometimes you just by mistake, not intentionally, close the lower lip. You have to pay attention to that. Then the GLE. There we go. And the width here with the GLE, once again, 1.10 meters or 43 inches. Length, comparable, meter or 40 inches. And here also in the height, oh, this is actually also a little bit better, 83 centimeters or 33 inches. So that's interesting. Although the X5 leads in liter, the GLE here looks better actually. This one, no gas strut, but a lot of space underneath. So maybe it's the thing. Yeah, you can see here the GLE loses the liter figures here because it's a little bit, like cut off here, whereas the X5 continues a little bit more here. That's maybe the thing. We can put down the car because we have the air suspension, so for better loading in and out. But then again, there's also no remote release. So I mean, at that price point, there definitely should be one, shouldn't there? So then we can push it around like this. I always love that shot here. Oh, Hulk is opening both hoods. So there we go. The BMW 3-liter 6-cylinder, or then in the top spec a 4-liter 8-cylinder in the M Performance model and the True M model. And that's basically it on the petrol and a diesel side. And the plug-in hybrid is also based on the 6-cylinder. With the Mercedes, you also have the 3-liter 6-cylinder diesel and petrol. However, you also start with 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol and diesel, depending on the market if it's available. And their plug-in hybrids are also based on the 4-cylinder. However, there's just one 53 AMG version plug-in hybrid that's also based on the 6-cylinder. Then there's once again also a 4-liter 8-cylinder than for the AMG model, for example. Well, so with Mercedes, it's, let's say the engine lineup is a little bit more complicated, but they still offer a lot of cylinders on both sides, and we both have 3 to 6 cylinders here as a comparison for you today. All right, Thomas's comparison driving lounge, starting with the BMW X5. We switch here to the sport mode. Ooh, then we get like this preload from the gears from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. $150. Nice. 170. 180, and now we're paying attention that we don't crash into someone. That was very good acceleration here for the 3-liter 6-cylinder, in this case the diesel. 5.5 seconds in the acceleration figure. That was really decent, and also a very nice refined sound actually, so you don't feel like, oh, it's a bad sound because it's a diesel. That's not happening here in the 6-cylinder diesel, actually. And is a very smooth power on the road, definitely. Here, the steering wheel without M Sport, I really have to say, I told you earlier that looks-wise I found it actually better. And it is actually better to control as well, because somehow I sometimes feel that the M Sport steering wheels have some kind of asymmetrical feeling to it, and this one here definitely feels more natural and symmetrical. That's very interesting. Leah is now thinking, that's Thomas OCD again. Yeah, about that. Maybe I'm car OCD-ish, you know what? Maybe I have to make that up. I don't know. Interesting is, by the way, here in the sport mode BMW, because we recently did a comparison sport mode and then the S shifting mode versus sport mode and D shifting mode, because when you are in an Audi or Mercedes and you go sport mode, it automatically switches to the S shifting mode. Here it's separate. So here it says S6, one time it says D. So the sport mode and the sport shifting mode is separated here in the BMW. That's interesting. And the thing is that the S shifting mode is good when you have like tight bends and you have acceleration and braking and back and forth. But here for the best performance, it's not necessarily the best setting. So that's why I kept it in the sport driving mode, but kept it in normal shifting mode, because then maybe some shifting times might not be ideal. The last time we tested it with the BMW 4-cylinder diesel, it was actually a second quicker in the sport driving mode and D shifting mode. Very interesting, isn't it? Now here, 120 kilometers an hour. I can also go back to the comfort mode. Then the air suspension is also set on the softer note. This one here equipped with the optional air suspension. And we're driving a large SUV on the German Autobahn at 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, and it is very silent, good noise insulation. It's super comfortable. These seats are a dream. The so-called Einsitzhöhe, such a good, like one of the best leatherette out there, and not only the best leatherette, one of the best seats out there at this moment. Leah, your comment? I'm talking about the car here. Please pay attention. Yeah, but that's the case. I mean, she's like dreaming away because the seats are so comfortable indeed. So there's always the sign like where when your passenger is not paying attention, it's like so relaxed. You know, I mean, I was just doing like full acceleration. She's like, so relaxed and comfortable here. So yeah, definitely proves my point. Best comfort here in the seats, and you can go long way journeys, no problem at all. Mileage. That's very excellent. And the steering feel here is good. Fine nuances, transport on the road. And I always feel that the SUV steering feel here is better at the BMWs than, for example, with some of their sedans. And that's kind of astonishing, you know. I'm not sure why that is. If the SUVs, the big ones, are all built in the US factory in Spartanburg, maybe these guys in the factory there think like, hey, let's make a better steering setup than with the sedans that are built in Germany. I have no idea where that is. Or in Mexico, of course, for the 3 Series for the Northern American market, whereas the 3 Series for Europe is built then in Germany. So here also, when you're just in the comfort mode, there's always the pin down available. And then you get good drive. Here, of course, the torque from the diesel sets in. For the North American market, the 3.6 in the petrol will be the most relevant, of course, but it's definitely comparable for the performance and so on. It's a great engine. And also interesting, talking about engines, that recent consumer reports show very good reliability figures for BMW, which hasn't been the case maybe 10, 20 years back. And, they had a reputation of, they're money pits and so on, great in driving, but then when you buy and own for a long time, money pits. But here BMW has massively increased reliability in the rankings. That is very astonishing, really good actually. Whereas with Mercedes, they went actually downhill with that. So that's definitely a factor to consider here as well. But such a relaxing ride on the motorway, and although you're driving like a large SUV, it doesn't shake up much and so on, even in comfort mode. When you are in the sport mode, then the air suspension is a little bit stiffer, gives you more feedback. But it's not that you would, when you get in the vehicle from the suspension, you would directly not notice which suspension mode the car is actually set in. Which is, I think, rather a good thing, because you can drive it in any mode and it will be good both on the comfort and the sportiness side. Do you need the air suspension in the BMW X5? I would say no. It's good, definitely, but the normal adaptive suspension is so good that you do not miss an air suspension. So I would recommend, or when you buy used or something, it's no problem which suspension the vehicle is equipped with. If you think about buying long term, it might be even better not to have the air suspension, because at some point when there is a repair after a long time, then it's easier to fix the base suspension than the air suspension, for example. Oh, there's a German police, by the way. Blind spot monitor, also in the side mirrors. We can also test the cruise control feature. Here I can change the mode for normal speed limiter, then just the normal cruise control between the assisted driving, and here assisted driving. Car is basically steering itself. Of course, you have to keep your hands at the steering wheel, but you see here there are no hectic movements. Car is being centralized in a very smooth way. And now when the motorway is slightly turning to the left, you can see it's still being kept relatively smooth. So overall, that is really, such a flawless driving experience here with the BMW X5. I wonder if the GLE can be even better than that. And now the Mercedes GLE, let's put here to the sport mode, and let's also accelerate here from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. $130, $150, nice, $170, $180, and plop, 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. We're driving a large SUV and still feels really good. Even wind noise is pretty good at that speed, so that is nice. Yeah, it drives really well. New steering wheel with this facelift here for the GLE also is very nice to control. The steering has massively been improved. It's more direct, more feedback. Just here in the something happens here on the left lane. So in this, very low degree angle, there the BMW has more feeling, more direct input, but then to the outsides, it's definitely better. And it was also astonishing that with the GLE, you need a little bit more force to steer it, especially in the sport mode. So the BMW steering, to me, a little bit better. Yes, it's a little bit lighter, but at the same time, it has more natural feeling to it. So both on a very good level, but the BMW steering a little bit better. Suspension-wise, I do prefer the air suspension of the Mercedes. I feel that if you go with the standard suspension, then the BMW is better. If you go with the air suspension, this one here has a more likable setup. Why? Especially when I'm here in the comfort mode, this air suspension here, when there's some bumps in the road, it just has a little softer setup. It gives you this air carpet ride, whereas the BMW is a little bit more direct, and I prefer that if you have an air suspension, you also feel clearly that you have an air suspension. That's what I prefer here with the GLE. Although we have here 21-inch wheels mounted and 20-inch with the X5. So suspension-wise, both are super comfortable. And here also, let's take like normal motorway speeds, like here 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour. It's very silent here. So both are very silent. That's very, very well done. So super comfortable ride for both on the motorway. Seats, clearly the BMW X5 is the winner. These seats here are the animal skin seats. You also get the Article leatherette. But in both cases, the BMW leatherette seats, they are better than all of the other seat choice you would have for both cars, basically. So they clearly need it and give so much more comfort while driving. Also, the base ergonomics of the seats is better with the BMW. So you see, it's here, you know, I prefer this one. In other respects, I prefer the other one. It really depends, you know. Controlling it while driving, both touchscreens are quite far away. It's not meant to be done like that. Here you still have this lower controller, but that's also via touch, so it doesn't give you the best feeling. The only thing is the clearly better interface while driving is here that I still have the manual climate unit. I control that one way easier while driving. That one has been, you know, deleted with the facelift of the X5. Not a good decision, I feel, because then they would be quite even in that respect. Yeah, really here, like when running straight, then they have, see here, doesn't do anything on the road. Some might prefer that, I don't. So with the X5 I have a more fine feeling of what I'm doing in that angle. Then also when I'm doing a lane change here, in the normal comfort mode, it's very nice, very well done. Here, which is unique feature, you have the curve mode. This is special suspension system with hydraulics, and then, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but the car leans into the corner. It's not too much, not too extreme, but you feel and see it. And if you do these dry tests, you might say, yeah, this is an advantage then, especially for passenger. Leah also said she does like it at first, but then you said like bit by bit, it's a little bit, it became a little bit stranger, you know. So it's a cool feature to show off, but we were both not very certain if we would drive like that, like forever, you know. So it's not really needed. US vehicles are usually not equipped with that anymore. You can't really pick it. In Europe it's still available. Yeah, it's an interesting feature, but you don't really need it in that respect. You don't have the rear axle steering that you would have in the X5 as an option. We didn't have it today, but you can get it as an X5 option. And here, wow, the diesel really has, in German we would say, der hat ordentlich Druck, Alter. Like, it has a lot of pressure, dude. Yeah, that works very well with the diesel. So the only thing is that with the BMW, you don't feel at all that you are driving a diesel, especially in a low speed area. It doesn't happen at all that you would feel it's a diesel, because it has like very, you know, like instant acceleration. Here, the Mercedes diesel feels more like a diesel. So it has a slight delay at first, and then the whole pressure comes, like the whole torque sets in. Acceleration-wise doesn't make a big difference. So on paper here, like 0.1 seconds, this one here is slower, but that's about it. Excellent motorway SUVs for sure, both. I think it's more about really that the seating comfort. That is the biggest difference also while driving, and steering a little bit. But since they both do basically everything in driving so well, the pure driving experience is not the biggest difference between these two cars. Slight nuances, yes, but both excellent. But what does it mean for the final conclusion? It's going to be a tough one, so let's start. Exterior-wise, I think it's really a matter of preference. And well, I prefer the AMG line for the GLE and the standard, the X line for the X5, but they're both very beautiful in the front. So exterior-wise, I think I'm kind of undecided. Interior-wise, just from the visual part, from the looks, I prefer the Mercedes GLE. Then again, with the X5, the seating comfort is way better with this Sensación seat. So this is a huge difference indeed. Then again, the GLE has more legroom in the rear. Trunk was actually very well comparable, both very well usable. They both drive exceptionally well. Base suspension, I would prefer the X5. With the air suspension, I would prefer the GLE because it has a little bit softer setup. The ear active body control, the super extra suspension, is not really needed. The diesel engine here, direct in comparison, the X5 was a little bit more responsive from the engine, and also the consumption was lower, like 8 liters on 1 kilometers for the BMW, 9.5 liters for the GLE, so quite a notable difference, 30 mpg US or 35 mpg UK for the X5, but only about 25 mpg US or 30 mpg UK for the GLE. Pricing also very interesting. Here as the test vehicles that are spec'd today, 116,000 euros for the BMW X5 and 128,000 euros for the Mercedes GLE. Of course, a little bit less if you don't pick this e-active body control, but in most cases the GLE will be a little bit more expensive. Again, it always depends on the individual spec. They both come very close and they are both excellent vehicles, no doubt about that. Reliability figures, especially from the US, consumer reports indicate lately that BMW as a whole brand has better reliability rankings. Mercedes dropped down significantly there, and since they test US vehicles, GLE and the GLS are built in the US, so that comes quite close in that respect. So when you think about buying and owning and keeping it, then that speaks for the X5. Leasing then, of course, is something different because you don't carry the risk for that if you just lease it 2 or 3 years under warranty and so on. Overall, taking from all these factors, the question is what is most important to you? If I would prefer one or the other on design and exterior, that is not the most important to me. To me, the seating comfort indeed is crucial while driving, and that is way better with the X5. And of course, if I buy and own, the reliability aspect. So the thing is, I love both vehicles, really like to drive both vehicles. But when I just from my gut feeling, would decide which one could I keep still tomorrow and want to drive with it every day, in that respect then, and everything combined what we mentioned, I would keep the BMW X5 here today. Which one would you go for? And tell me why, tell me in the comments. And also tune in our other comparisons, Mercedes versus BMW. Has always been close and very interesting, and sometimes I go this way, sometimes I go that way. By the way, also, this is also a very interesting aspect I want to mention. Between GLE and GLC, the smaller brother, I would pick the GLC. Between X5 and X3, I would actually go with the X5. That's maybe also another interesting aspect for you. Two of the top premium SUVs fight it out. The BMW X3 recently facelifted against the Mercedes GLC in the all-new generation, here with Thomas and Autogefühl for you in 4K full screen, full length. Let's go. The X3, well, it's been there quite a while on this generation, but with a facelift, new front grille here, vertical fins, really strong styling. This also has the M Sport package. So we have the black accentuation in the low part and a stronger intake right here. Both have LED spec. You can get different LED specs, and interesting how they have totally different signatures here for the LED. The GLC also in the comparable AMG line today. That means also sporty air intakes right here, and it now also comes with this micro star pattern, a really beautiful feature. So to me, from the front, they're both very beautiful. It's just different design philosophy. What's your take? Tell me in the comments. With 4.72 m or 186 inches, the new GLC has grown a little bit if you compare it to the predecessor, and now it's basically at the same length like the BMW X3, just a centimeter difference. And the design language is completely different here, especially the GLC, more this round shape here overall. Interesting side step. They not only look cool, but also serve aerodynamics, but you might get trousers dirty or something when they are dirty as well. 19-inch wheels, winter tires, comparable also to 19-inch wheels, winter tires for the BMW. We also have painted wheel arches in the vehicle color, both white here today, a great comparison for sure. M Sport Pack means M badge here, and here also this this breather element, because in this case it's not a real air breather, just a design element. And then we have here also black around the windows. And you can see the difference in design language once again, where you have more curved in, more angular features with the X3. The question is, which one do you prefer? I think both are beauty in themselves, I have to say. Front was both, very appealing. Side, I think, that's a little bit more, angular, sporty siding. I would prefer the X3. What about the rear? In the rear, we can see big design differences. Here with the GLC, more this round-shaped raindrop design, I would call it. New style for tail lamps, and in lower part, Autogefühl fake exhaust police alert, because these are clearly just visual tips. With the X3, a more rectangular design, a sportier approach. With the recent facelift, also new tail lamp design here. This is a very cool thing, and really always tells you, hey, this is an X3, that you can also distinguish it against the smaller brother, the X1 or something. With the M Sportback, you also get the black accentuation in the lower part, a diffuser style, and these are real exhausts then in this case. Which one is the favorite for you in the rear? Tell me. Acceleration figure, by the way, just a little bit over 6 seconds for both, but difference on the US market won't be that much because of the emission rules in the European Union. This is a little bit detuned, so there is then a bigger difference in acceleration. So the GLC, a little bit quicker, a little bit more horsepower here with the spec GLC 300 against the X-Drive 30i. And the very interesting technology detail is the rear axle steering up to 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction than the front wheels. This comes together in the package with air suspension, and the air suspension and the rear axle steering, this is actually special to the GLC. The X3 does not have it, just the normal adaptive suspension. And the cool thing is here with the rear axle steering, it reduces the turning circle by about a meter, because this here goes 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. Isn't it funny that in the key fob comparison here, the Mercedes, again, all the way round, central shape, and the BMW more angular shape. So the design on the exterior is also reflected in the key fobs. I like that, actually. Here, Mercedes dog-trotting sound, actually quite solid. And then inside of the doors, in the new generation, it's all about the looks, definitely. Therefore, very sleek and also clean. But then again, functionality-wise, this one does not get feedback anymore with controlling the seat. One button design here for seat heating and memory function. So visually, it looks cool at first time, but when you look closer then, maybe I even prefer the previous generation. But the ambient lighting integration is also here, also around the air vents. So the Mercedes interior is more really about, look here, what we got, more this wow effect. AMG line means also the horizontal spokes at the steering wheel. And in this case here, there is an animal skin spec on the seat, but there's a lot of Artico, for example, the high-grade leatherette available also for the Mercedes. They have good choices there. Seating position here in the GLC, I would say it is fairly comfortable, yes, but I wouldn't say it's ideal for tall people. So I think the seat ergonomics is not top of the game. So when you're taller, you feel like sitting more on the seat than in the seat. However, just the cockpit around you, that is more caging you in actually. So not too much space above your head. It's okay with 189 or 6'2". But overall, seat ergonomics, I think the GLC will not win today. You won't get back pain or something, but I think Mercedes has to work on the ergonomics. Interior setup with the Mercedes here, everything very central with these round lines. Nice wood insert, but a lot of high gloss black here. But I really like the air vents. As for the illumination, but here, that's again seen it with the C-Class. It's not straight, they're not like, they should be like this. But yeah, build quality wise here on the inside, just these knobs, not that ideal. And the temperature is always controlled in the screen right here. Yeah, so no real dials as for that. But it has also here a lot more interesting features. Here, for example, in this off-road view, we can also go to this off-road camera, and then you have a see-through bonnet. The image is being built up, and now I can see what's going on underneath, not with the live feed. The live feed is around. The feed underneath is then basically built up by the live feed before, and then I can exactly see what's underneath. So that's a very cool feature. Here, once again, close up how I control the temperature and the main infotainment system. This is the map. It's somewhat also responsive, yes. And then you can go to the main menu like this. Good overview actually, and the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto is also then available as the wireless. Only thing that is cool here with the vents, you have this feature that the air vents turn red or blue depending on the color changes. Digital instruments, where we can also see the consumption, 9 liters, 1 kilometers. For the GLC, 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK there would be. And then here we can also, for example, have full screen GPS map, car internally though. Or for example, this great off-road gauge. This is, the most fancy one for sure. And you also get a head-up display. How does it work on the steering wheel? You slide here, for example, for the volume. It looks clean and fancy, but for controlling it, always better to have a feedback. There is some kind of feedback when you press this here, but you see here is like one button fits it all basically. So one button, but then different capacitive areas. This middle console here is full of high gloss black, so not my favorite one. Underneath you have cup holders. They are not that much securing the bottles though. Then I here, for example, have a cable connected, because in the front you have 2 USB-C chargers. And I always like this split opening here for the armrest with more charging underneath. Now to the rear. Same design here. Of course, inside of the door is also interesting because they use a lot of, also here like leather red material, soft touch everything, and looks cool from the ambient light integration. Legroom, however, when I'm driving here as a tall person, barely fits actually, so not that much legroom. It works with the recess here, and headroom is actually no problem. It's decently comfortable, but also kind of stiff from the seats. Looking forward to the comparison to the X3, and in the middle part you can also sit, but very limited also as for the legs. So if you compare it also to the GLB brother, by the way, has approximately the same length, but just has more space on the interior. The GLC is more this upmarket SUV in the Mercedes lineup, and also with more power and more luxury features and so on, rear-axle steering, whereas the GLB is more like this family space on the inside. But what about the comparison here, GLC versus X3? This will also be very interesting here for the rear. Switching to the BMW, door closing sound, also solid, maybe a little bit better probably. Then inside of the doors, also soft touch material, also clean design and so on. Here is real haptic feedback for the seat control directly at the seat actually, and the seat itself also available now here. It's a standard thing, perforated sensor tech, and this is also with breathability, great quality, and also animal free. This one also the M Sport steering wheel here. Steering heating control is right here. With the GLC you have to use the voice command, or it's just combined with the seat heating actually. Seating position, somewhat comparable. I feel that the BMW X3 gives you a little bit more SUV driving position, and the GLC, that's more or less more crossover-ish. Here you also have a little bit more space with the middle console, and the seat itself, you sit a little bit more in the seat actually, so maybe a little bit better. But I think for BMW seats, the X3 doesn't have like the best ergonomics, but it's still good. We are really comparing good and good, definitely. In this segment here, I think ergonomics-wise, the Volvo XC60 would be the best one, and the Lexus NX is also very good as for the seat comfort. But overall, I think maybe like a slight, but just maybe a tiny advantage here for the BMW X3 from the position. And well, headroom, hardly comparable here because this one is not equipped with panoramic roof, and then we have a lot more space, but you can also get one for that. Interior overview here with the X3. Well, you feel it's not as sensual, not that modern, not like, oh, screaming out, wow, look at that, like in the Mercedes GLC. This one more drawn back, more conservative, nice brushed aluminum. Since the facelift, you also have a bigger screen here in 12.3 inch, but here the difference is with the GLC, we had this huge vertical one. Here the more horizontal approach, so really large difference indeed. The question is, what is better? What I do prefer in a way is to have a manual climate knob still with some haptic feedback and some interaction with the vehicle. As for the infotainment system here, the map is also somewhat responsive, and this is the CarPlay integration, also once again via touch, or also control it from below. Car internal map then on the middle part. In this OS 7 generation, not yet possible with CarPlay and Android Auto maps. So you see here, it is more simple and you don't have so many possibilities like with the Mercedes. Steering wheel buttons, to me, cooler here with the BMW because you can really press them. They're individual single buttons. Yeah, I mean here, the manual climate unit it's cool to have it, isn't it? Yeah, also here the volume knob, good to have a separate manual one still. And sound systems, here the Harman Kardon in the BMW versus the GLC sound from Burmester. The thing is, here the Harman Kardon to me, a little bit more low frequency bass intensive, also good in the surround sound, and the Burmester maybe has a little bit more clearness. So hard to say which one is better. The thing is really more what you prefer. Here we would say, der hat ein bisschen mehr Wumms. Listen and repeat. Der hat ein bisschen mehr Wumms. More like, you know, has a little bit more like bass punch. That's, you know, the approximate translation. And the other one in the Mercedes, the Burmester, more crisp clearness. So I guess it depends on the type of music you play. Lower part right here. This, you know, this can get stuck here at the beginning a little bit, so don't like it that much. But the cup holders are actually better with BMW. They hold bottles a little bit tighter. Inductive charging pad, you'll need this. You can also connect via cable, but here. But the thing is that the CarPlay or Android Auto connection is always wireless. And with the BMW, you still get a real shifting lever in the lower area. Some do definitely prefer that. And here, this is then this control knob there. Another possibility for the infotainment system. I think it's good to have it, especially while driving. And then we have this armrest here, also very well built, with more space underneath. Also nice build quality here in the rear with soft touch materials, this leatherette covering, Sensatec covering for the rear seat doors, and here with this brushed aluminum look. Wow, pretty cool actually. And then also the seat bench with the perforated Sensatec. So yeah, looks like a good build quality, a little bit more conservative in the styling. It's also the comparable older vehicle. As for the legroom, when I'm driving, you see also not too much space. The recess also works, so yeah, both don't have too much legroom here, I have to say. Here it would also be, I compared the GLC with the internal brother GLB, which had more space on the interior, although it's same size. The X1 is smaller than this one here, but has basically the same or maybe even a little bit more legroom. That always has to do with the packaging, and these bigger vehicles, they usually have longer hood and so on. Headroom, no problem at all, but this one again also without the panoramic roof. I can't say that any of these here has a big advantage in the rear. Middle seating, yeah, it's also a little bit cramped as for the legs, but then it's a little bit softer here. So both work for 4 tall adults, 5 just on short tracks, but no clear winner as for the rear. Now the trunk comparison, both used to be at 550 liters in capacity. The GLC now topped up 50 liters. It's now a little bit larger, so 600 liters. And what about the concise thing? So here we have the slider rails on the side. The width here is actually a little bit more than 1.40 meters. That's well done. And the length is, yeah, also approximately 1.40 meters, maybe a little bit shorter. And the height is also very interesting. This is the highest point here at 73 centimeters or 29 inches. The folding mechanism here, at least when you have this one, this possibility, this is awesome, the most awesome. Look at that. I mean, wow. Immediate folding and super clean and flat. And the total length is about, yeah, what, 180 or 71 inches. Below here, by the way, a lot of space still. Look at that. Then when we switch it over to the X3, you maybe remember the height with the GLC. Let's compare it here. What do we score? This is higher at like 78 centimeters or 30 inches. So the GLC was ending here. So you have, you know, like more height here. That's very usable. Then below also some more space. Then about the total length, because we can also fold the seats here in that X3, of course, but we have to reach over. But then it's actually also fairly easy to do that. A little bit less comfortable total length. Here, yeah, I mean, here it's like also 180 or 71 inches. It depends also where it's closing. Usually it's more like here. So, yeah, more or less the same. And then here the normal length of the trunk is, yeah, a little bit shorter here as well, a little bit less than 1.40 meters. The width here is comparable indeed, a little bit more than 1.40 meters. So a little bit more height for the X3, but a little bit more length for the GLC. Overall, both are very well usable. This seems to be here more, you know, a little bit more square, especially the opening. As for the engines, main difference is that for the X3 you can get 6-cylinder petrol and diesel engines. However, this is the 4-cylinder engine, also a very big bestseller here, the 30i as rear drive or as X-Drive here with the all-wheel drive, rear wheel bias. 245 horsepower, at least in the EU spec. 258 horsepower for the 2-liter 4-cylinder in the GLC. GLC 300, also available as rear drive or all-wheel drive. And with the new generation of the GLC, they set everything on 4 cylinders, expecting a 6-cylinder diesel on the later stage. So these are the main differences. And the thing is that the acceleration figure, the GLC is a little bit quicker than the X3 in this comparable engine spec. And also the plug-in hybrids, they have a lot more range here with this C-Class or GLC platform. Welcome to Thomas's comparison driving lounge. GLC versus X3, starting with the Mercedes GLC new generation. GLC 300 4MATIC, German Autobahn, acceleration onto the motorway. We'll let these two cars pass. You shall pass. And then from 45 kilometers an hour, sports mode. Let's go. 130, 150. Slowly approaching 200. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And almost the plop. 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. That's enough here for now. Wind noise is actually quite okay considering this high speed. And here also with the air suspension in sports mode, it's giving me more feedback. And wow, it's surprising how upright this car is staying. So it more feels like a sedan to drive indeed. Yes, of course, put up, but really stable indeed. And that shows also this air suspension is indeed not set on a very soft note. It's rather set on a stiff note. It's still comfortable, yes, but especially in the sport mode, it rather should enable you sporty driving indeed. For more comfort, we go back here to the comfort mode in the drive select. You do not have to hit it on the screen. You can also like scroll through left and right. So that's at least possible. Responsiveness could be a little bit better. Here in the comfort mode now, comfort is definitely fine as for suspension. But again, I talked about this sometimes when I'm driving Mercedes. I love it when they have air suspension and having this very soft floaty ride. Maybe that's too soft for some others, I don't know, but for me I think it's great when having air suspension, but here rather on a stiffer note without losing comfort or something. Here now in the tunnel, look at that ambient lighting. I mean, this is like night riding here now. Here, there, 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 there. Is it too much for you or do you love it? Just tell me in the comments. So I really find it very, very cool. Why not? And you know, also here when you play with the temperature again, that you have the red vents then when you make it warmer, blue vents when you make it colder. Of course, also when I would have green, this the standard color, and then the more that make it colder, then it jumps from green to blue, for example. But I have set blue here to the standard color at this moment. I really like the steering input, so it's quite precise and direct. Mercedes steering inputs used to be, yes, natural, but in a way kind of slow. So you had to turn a lot until something would happen. Here they have made it a little bit more, more reaction to low degree angle, and this progressiveness I really like. So in this case then, a big difference to the previous generation. Indeed, this new generation GLC, if you compare it to the previous generation, feels definitely sportier to drive. And then of course you have that rear axle steering, which is just massive. This is also then when we start comparing to the BMW X3, the rear axle steering 4.5 degrees in the opposite direction. This is a major advantage indeed when you think about U-turns, and also, where can I show you that? What we could do is actually, yeah, I mean there's a fuel station here nearby, so let me just drop it to the fuel station, then I can almost like, turn around in a circle or something. So it is at low speeds, it turns in the opposite direction. And for example, when I get on here now, and this not like a vast array, but just when I do like this, let's take a look at that. So this guy's wondering what the hell is this guy doing there. But here it almost feels like I would be turning on standstill, So yeah, no, now I'm gonna fool the fuel station, fool the fuel, yeah. I'm not gonna fuel up. So sometimes you think like, like U-turns, you would say like, I can't do it with such a big SUV. Yeah, here it is actually possible. This rear-axle steering is just awesome, and that BMW doesn't offer it for the X3. Might be something coming up then in an all-new generation at some point or so. So rear-axle steering, really good. Suspension also doing a good job. There's an X5. We can head out to the motorway once more and do some more high-speed driving and see how the lane changes are at higher speeds. But before that, cruise control, set, assistance systems. So here the distance to the car in front of me is being kept. I can activate or deactivate the active lane keeping assist. Here at the moment it is activated. And then here you can see the car keeps itself in the lane. This is the blind spot monitor visually, and when I put the turning indicator, then it also acts acoustically. Here in the settings you can also deactivate the active lane changing assist, and then it's actually gone. Yeah, in this case the car is just keeping it up anyway, because you see the steering is turned just a little bit and the corner is going exactly a little bit left. That's astonishing. So that looked like active lane keeping, although it's not active lane keeping, because also from torque steering, that the wheels just follow the ground. Very interesting. Sports mode one time when we're at 90 kilometers an hour. Let's go. Very nice sound, right? 130, 150. And 180. Yeah, so it's like around here. Wow. Cars being kept in the lane very nicely. Of course, not because of the assistances. I mean, like, suspension is doing a good job, not shaking up the vehicle. Now at high speed lane changing. Feels real. Oh no, it wants its speed limit for winter tires. At 210, so that's the speed limit they set them to winter tires. It feels so calm and collected driving high speed motorway. Here, when we have some waves actually, then the air suspension becomes apparent. Then we know we are doing an air suspension. But wow, I mean, how well this vehicle is handling on high speed for an SUV without being like Porsche Macan or something, So definitely confirms the thing, switch from previous to this generation, that it's way sportier than before. And so far it was really the thing when we were looking at GLC versus X3. We could always say, yeah, the X3 is the sportier one, whereas the GLC is the more luxurious one. And since they made this generation sportier in the drive, that doesn't count that much anymore, Also remember here, it is basically still a it is basically still a rear-wheel driven platform, so you can get this one here, for example, in the US also as rear-wheel drive, but in the EU this one will then be all-wheel drive. In most cases, the hell? Yeah, this sound emulation is also telling like, hey, we're sporty now, Very interesting. So, yeah. Indeed, it is more fun to drive. So again, with suspension, steering, rear-axle steering and so on, this generation is indeed more fun to drive now. That's definitely a cool thing. And if they want to make it up to BMW, so try to even out that gap, indeed as for the sportiness, they did that. So, and yeah, technology-wise, it's pretty amazing with the rear-axle steering. So these are a lot of advantages that Mercedes has gained now. It also offers that air suspension. Then again, the price is higher, so it's always pro and con. Definitely, yes. So the GLC, from the driving part here, already gathered a lot of pro arguments against the BMW X3. So this might be a very, very close race. Is there anything yet what we could say on the negative side? Well, told you on the interior, when driving here, it's not that I would get any back pain or something, you know, so it is comfortable enough. But I still have the feeling also, I've been driving yesterday like 600 kilometers in one day. Didn't, again, have any back pain or something. But I feel like these seats are a little bit too stiff, especially with the animal skin material. The article leatherette will be a little bit softer, and you more feel like, it wasn't for me. You more feel like sitting on the seat. Oh, what a nice old W123. So you being like, you cannot go into the seat being held tight, you know. So you're more sitting on the seat, like almost like blown off the seat. Just, you know, accelerating now a little bit. Horse traffic here. So I'm not exactly sure if they thought about really tall people for these seats. If you're a little bit smaller, and it's no problem probably. But I think that the long-term seat ergonomics at this moment, at Mercedes in general, is not top of the game. And that especially like, you know, Lexus, Volvo, Audi is doing that better. BMW, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Depends on the car model. What about the X3? And now the BMW X3 in that comparison. Well, first of all, steering-wise, this is very interesting. So it used to be the other way around, but now the Mercedes GLC actually has a more direct steering. That's very interesting, isn't it? Might have also something to do with the rear axle steering option, but not only, because here also, indeed, I have to steer more in the BMW. So that's a very interesting thing, right? Isn't it? So it's also good as for the steering feeling, and I also prefer it if you compare it to the BMW 3 Series, which feels to me a little bit less natural in a way. But here, I think, yeah, it's totally fine, but surprising that the Mercedes GLC has the more direct and actually sportier steering feel. Just from the whole drive itself, from being in that vehicle here, somehow the X3 feels a little bit more engaging sport here, but just, you know, on a very subjective note, you know what I mean? So that whole layout maybe also where Mercedes sends it more to the wow, luxurious features. Here the X3 feels a little bit more engaging, but you don't have it anymore, this difference that, hey, Mercedes luxurious, BMW sporty, because the new GLC generation is also quite sporty, so that's a very interesting thing. We have the adaptive suspension here in the BMW, that's the one they got, so both with the optional suspension. The air suspension in a way can do a little bit more with the GLC. They have set it on a sporty note. Oh, interesting wrap for that A5. They have set it on a sportier note than before, that air suspension. At the same time, you feel here, the adaptive suspension is also very good. However, due to that air suspension in the GLC, it is not less sporty, but at the same time, it is more comfortable. So also a very good ride here with the X3, no doubt about that. But you feel a little bit more what's happening on the road, whereas that air suspension in the Mercedes is evening the things out. Of course, that's also the thing about going for the options. So one of the key findings already we can say here, that when you have like a low spec GLC versus low spec X3, there won't be such a difference, or maybe also a little bit favored towards the X3. But when you go high spec versus high spec and also get all of these optional technology features that the GLC has, like rear axle steering plus the air suspension, then the GLC plays out these technology advantages in that new generation, and then it actually is a better ride than in the X3. So very interesting finding here already right now. Overall, it is also, you can also have it relaxing, even though it is engaging. The engine, of course, power spec wise, it is somewhat comparable, definitely. You maybe remember how it picked up in the sport mode in the Mercedes. That was actually pretty quick. And what we can do here is also go to the sport mode and put it here to the S shifting mode as well. So this is then in this case here like two different things you have to do. And when we just roll a little bit and then just see how responsive it is. Yeah, maybe also quite responsive, but maybe a little bit more, of course, takes for the shifting down. So then, bang, you get the big boost. In a way, maybe it was a little bit smoother with the Mercedes, I would actually say. It will be very interesting soon when we head to the motorway and do the high-speed comparison, how it compares right there. I can always say both drive very, very well. It's really, really hard to pick a definite winner in here. Just again, when you think about U-turning and parking in and out, there the Mercedes with that optional rear axis steering is already a winner, definitely. Here going some left and right. The funny thing is here in that very small degree, you see here, it doesn't do too much. But then when you go some left and right in this degree, then the X3 gives you a little bit more feeling for the vehicle. And although the GLC is sporty now, indeed, the thing is still that the BMW more feels connected. It's more like this. Here, I always know I am driving the vehicle and rather feel one with the vehicle. The GLC more has this, this is like high-tech stuff, and this is really amazing and impressive, but it's rather like I am driven by this high-tech vehicle. You know what I mean? And that is, you can't really say like that's good and that's bad. That's more about also personal preference. Both have something. The GLC kind of transports more fascination while driving, whereas here the X3 more transport this more purist car enthusiast feeling. So, and once again, both have something unique. This is really about what is important to you. What is important to me? Maybe I know more about this decision here. I'm driving at high speed on the German Autobahn. Sport mode and S shifting mode from 50 kilometers an hour. Let's go. $150. 190. Okay, now it's also slowing up. And 200 kilometers an hour. Start a little bit earlier the acceleration. Here also lane changes at high speeds. Very well done, really stable. Also not too much wind noises considering the high speed, definitely. So also very well done. It feels also calm and collected, definitely. And the adaptive suspension here at higher speeds is more comparable than with lower speeds. That's very interesting. Here also, once again, lane change at high speed. Very good feeling for the vehicle. As for, noises and so on, maybe it was even slightly better for the Mercedes. But really interesting is that suspension-wise, when you're really at high speeds, both are more comparable. When you're here at like mid speeds and low speeds, then that air suspension of the Mercedes is playing out its advantages. So there you definitely have more comfort. So the air suspension just more adaptive, more versatile in a way here, there. Yes, there's also an adaptive suspension, and the comparison will maybe look a little bit different when the Mercedes has the base suspension. But that's what we got here, comparing high trim versus high trim. And here in the tunnel, there is some ambient lighting inside of the doors and also here towards the side area. Looking also quite cool, also in the lower middle console here. But definitely that ambient lighting of the Mercedes is no match for that here when you're driving tunnel. For some it's too much, some rather prefer it subtle, but yeah, some find it also cool. The cruise control we have here is also an adaptive one. Set the speed and also the distance to the car in front of us being kept. Lane keeping assist here is more that, let's say, like this emergency lane keeping assist. It's not as comparable, as active as the one in the Mercedes. So then the one in the Mercedes is already, let's say, a step higher as for that elaborate lane keeping assist. Here, once again, a little bit more driver focused, and it's also a lot of fun here in this Autobahn Ausfahrt. There's the exit of the Autobahn. Yeah, so it's very interesting, So I wasn't really quite sure what to expect when comparing these two vehicles. Indeed, both have definitely their unique strength. And I was kind of surprised how sporty the GLC is now. But here, the X3, it doesn't have this high-tech sophistication focus, but it still has this engaging drive. Once again, now in this corner here, see here I have to steer a little bit more, but very well outside the corner. All-wheel drive here also with the rear wheel bias then with the BMW. Really hard to say which one I prefer powertrain-wise. The Mercedes seems to be a little bit more efficient. So here, more than 90s, more towards 10 liters or more kilometers. So that's rather than, towards 20-something plus MPG, barely 30 MPG UK. So a little bit more better advantage as for the fuel economy for the Mercedes. One more time, 90 kilometers an hour to whatever, let's see. 150, 170. Feels really nice. It's amazing indeed. I mean, the X3 feels quicker, although on paper the acceleration figures are better for the Mercedes. That's very interesting, isn't it? Strange indeed, right? So, but that's also the thing, So it feels quicker and it feels still sportier to drive, just a little more engaging in the handling, whereas the Mercedes has this, technology shine stuff. At higher speeds here and there, some rattling stuff, I have to say. That wasn't the case with the GLC, so here also small advantage for the GLC. But from the driving itself, again, both great really. Here maybe a little bit more fun focus, where we have more tech focus with the GLC. Let's sum that up, and it's gonna be tough. Which one would I take home and which one would I recommend for you today? It's going to be a tough one. Well, the thing is, from the exterior styling, I really like both from the front. The Mercedes has some cool features like the micro-star pattern, but the BMW also looks very strong in the front. I really like both in the front. I think the design is overall good. But then again, towards side and rear, I think I rather prefer the X3 for more angular styling. This is the automatic closing function, by the way, that the side mirrors also for in the car close itself when I go away from it. So here more round central styling for the Mercedes, and it carries over to the interior. And there, styling-wise and also ambient lighting-wise, that's what I find very lovely with the GLC, whereas the X3 is more drawn back, more conservative. So this interior of the GLC gives you more experience and more showing off effect indeed. But then again, the X3 has manual climate dials, for example. It also is more simple in a way, and both have something, You can experience more with the GLC, but you can easier use the X3 and both. Yeah, it's really tough indeed. As for the space on the interior, they are not best, they're overall, their smaller brothers, for example, would have a better packaging overall ratio. In the trunk, also comparable. I would rather say it's more rectangular with the X3. Rear legroom also quite comparable. And driving-wise, well, so far in the previous generation, I would have said, yeah, okay, the sporty experience, X3, luxurious experience, less sporty, GLC. Now the thing is that when you have this air suspension and maybe also set on the sport mode and so on, and they're sportier also from the steering and so on, so the GLC has evened this gap. It's not that this one would not be sporty anymore. So that's a major finding also from this review, from this comparison review. Technology-wise, the Mercedes leads it indeed because of that rear axle steering that makes it so much better to use parking in and out. That would be a crucial factor actually, but it's also a very cost-intensive option. And of course, when you go for a plug-in hybrid, this one will have a big pure electric range, 100 kilometers or 60 miles and so on. From the how engaging it is to drive, I would say the X3 still has like a notch more when you sit down, and it's still a little bit like the X3 like drive me, and the GLC is a little bit more come on, be driven, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think the thing is, do you prefer the styling on one of these, both exterior and interior? And how important is it for you to be a little bit more engaging in the drive? Or are you more focused on the technology side where the GLC just offers more? So sometimes in these comparison reviews I struggle. Sometimes I say, okay, this is the clear winner or this is the clear winner. But today it's super, super tough. I wouldn't say that there is a super clear winner on either on this one here today. It's real thing is more technology focus and more like showing off, or more a little bit more conservative, more a little bit more engaging to drive. That is the crucial choice for today. And also, depending on the market, the GLC in most cases will be a couple of €1,000 more expensive, especially when you go for these technology features. So I would then also look at the pricing. So I can't decide right now which one I would take home. I think I would take maybe weeks really to decide, and then also look at the pricing. Here again, the Mercedes will be more expensive if you take these technology features. Let's take it that way. When you compare high spec versus high spec, I think the technology features for the Mercedes GLC shine. But when you go low spec versus low spec, then the difference is not that large from the technology thing, and then the X3 would have the advantage. So yeah, that's my verdict for today. Which one would you take home? Over 1,000 horsepower in one video, the premium sedans comparison test, Audi S4 versus BMW M340i versus Mercedes C43. This is Thomas with Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the Audi single frame grille, black styling. You can also get black Audi rings and this Ur Quattro citation from the first Quattro model actually. Here then the matrix LED lamps with a beautiful turning indicator also in the cascading style, and more black accentuations in the lower part. This color is called Ascari Blue. The BMW styling actually, I think styling wise, it just looks most screaming out in a way here, especially with the M Sport Package Pro, where you can also get this dark frame around the double kidney. The standard M340i would also come with like gray accentuations, and here the C43 vertical fins in the special AMG front grille, which also is wider in the lower part than in the top part. This color here is called Hyacinth Red. Yeah, it's a little bit strange because in the configurator you only find the Patagonia, but you can also go for custom orders. And here the lamps, also with a very interesting daytime running light. The turning indicator not as spectacular right here. This then also the digital light, also with adaptive high beam function and so on. Which one do you find best from the front styling? Tell me in the comments. With 4.71 m or 185 inches, the BMW is, so to speak, the smallest, but it's actually not a huge difference to the other size figures for the Mercedes and the Audi. Big difference is also will have an effect on driving. We have 18-inch wheels for the BMW and the Audi, of course can get bigger ones, and 19-inch wheels today for the Mercedes. The Mercedes in the side profile has the most aggressive look, the sportiest look. The BMW, something in between, and the Audi clearly the most conservative, most subtle look on the exterior. As for the rear, super interesting how they differ right here. They all employ this separate contrasting spoiler right here. The Audi once again with the most conservative look and also, let's say, not screaming out too much. The BMW, I think, most consistent. Oh, another guest for today. Here, I think very beautiful with the three-dimensional tail lamps. And the Mercedes is the most screaming out one, but they all employ fake exhaust. Worst with the Audi, of course, than in the EU diesel trim. It is better than in the petrol trim with the Audi, of course, where you have a real exhaust. And here with the BMW, something in between, because you have this outer tip. And with the Mercedes, these are not the real pipes. The real one is also on the inside. Key fob comparison, Audi, BMW, Mercedes. They all have something. The Mercedes one is the most elaborated one in a way, also the heaviest one, but then it's also thickest in the pocket actually. The BMW here, the slimmest one. Which one is your favorite? BMW seating position, a lot of headroom left, definitely also for tall people. Steering wheel here also with a manual control, also very smooth indeed. The seats so far so good. I think for tall people the ergonomics could be a little bit better. I think that Volvo still does it best as for the seat ergonomics, but I also feel that the Audi seat is especially a little bit more comfortable than this one here. This one here, the animal skin spec. However, BMW is best in offering perforated sensor tech, the animal-free material in all markets. Since the 3 Series facelift, BMW presents us a mix of analog and digital. This new curved screen, 2 screens then in one unit, but then you still have a manual volume knob, and also here in the lower part, this control knob right there that you can also control the infotainment system while driving. I really appreciate to have that. The infotainment system itself is actually quite quick indeed. Also has a useful car internal GPS, and the Apple CarPlay integration is really large. Definitely you see here this horizontal focus, whereas Mercedes goes with the vertical focus. Just here the AC unit, it went into the screen with the facelift. That is easier to access with the Audi, also when you want to activate the seat heating or so, because you always have to go into the menu or use the voice control. Instruments come alive like this, and then you can also switch here to different layouts. This is a more, let's say, modern digital approach, whereas Audi, for example, also has an analog digital look. Do you know what I mean? So which one would you prefer? And I don't know about you, but here this new shifting lever, I think BMW needs a proper shifting stick and not this, yes, clean solution, but it's just tiny. Mercedes door closing sound. Also very good. You see a lot of high gloss piano lacquer is being used, so it looks quite cool. But when you then look in detail, the other ones look more elaborated. This is the AMG Performance seat. Stiffer, slimmer, and also more bolstering. You can also get the normal sport seat, which would be standard. In Germany, we can also get Dynamica microfiber on the inside, not possible in the UK and not certain yet in the US. Seating is not too uncomfortable, although this is quite stiff from the bolstering, more comfort than in a normal comfort seat. But here also I think that the seating comfort is best with the Audi. Steering is actually quite cool here with the microfiber and also the 2 horizontal spokes. But then again, also hashtag capacitive BS at the steering wheel. Interior overview with the Mercedes, most screaming out also here from the design. Vertical layout, big difference to the other ones. And here in the C43 we also have this carbon fiber decor right here. The air vents are also really screaming out. Nice ambient lighting integration at night, however. And the steering wheel, once again, this has a good size and also nice shifting pedals. Well, there's such a huge difference between the Audi, which is most subtle, most conservative, and the Mercedes, which has like elements here, everywhere. What I found very cool is that with the Mercedes you can drive and also select then the driving modes at the steering wheel directly. That's the easiest here in the test. And you can also see the driving modes changing in the infotainment system, but also can individually just set a specific setting here in these special AMG gauges. And the rest of the infotainment system, it's actually pretty quick. And also here the car internal GPS, for example, the Apple CarPlay integration looks like this, also really large indeed. You can very well work with that, and also like in the BMW temperature unit in the screen, it always stays at this point, but still that is best in the Audi where you still have the physical input. Oh, and have you seen the air vents, like the middle controls? They are now all straight in this vehicle, unlike in models before. Probably they have fix that. Digital instruments, very versatile. You can pick completely different stylings. For example, here understated look, also map look, or assistance systems and so on, how you want to drive. And for the AMG, you also have special sport gauges like Sport or Super Sport. No, Super Sport, yeah, that's about controlling it with the capacitive BS buttons and also track pace. And you also have a lot of storage here in the front, cup holders also adaptive to USB-C chargers, and in the middle armrest more. Front seating here with the Audi, comfortable and balanced, and also the steering wheel position here, manual style up and down and out, but really smooth indeed. So this is here already seating wise a good balance between sportiness and comfort. And headroom is plenty left, even with 189 or 6'2". And the Audi seats here with Alcantara on the middle part and integrated head restraint. Looks quite cool, especially this Alcantara pattern, doesn't it? Interior overview in the Audi S4, clean, straightforward, rather conservative, nice brushed aluminum, and here this tablet or the screen is basically attached. This is the facelift model. Digital instruments, clear to read. I think the best digital instruments here in this test. You can also change the view. And of course this lovely climate unit right here. It's so great, has this really beautiful clicking sound. This is the best straightforward user interface, also here with the toggle wheels on the steering wheel. So yes, it looks most old school, but it's also easiest to control. Seating here in the BMW, already closed when I'm driving here in the front. This recess here at the back part of the seat, that would work better when I put the seat a little bit higher, then it would actually work. Headroom, yeah, gets close, but it's also fine for my size, 1.89 or 6'2". A little bit narrow here for the shoulder area. That's quite typical for BMW sedans. Overall, also good build quality here for the rear doors. There is one advantage to the performance seat. It gives you a little bit more legroom, but also in all three vehicles you hardly have any knee room when a tall driver is driving. And headroom is also comparable. You can always basically put a hand over your head. So there, not much difference. It's very comparable with the BMW. I think just from the basic architecture, the Audi offers a little bit more space here to the side, but not more legroom. This one here actually, with the performance seat, best legroom. Seating in the rear with the Audi, headroom is fine, but these sport seats with the integrated head restraint, they really restrict the legroom. It's better with the normal A4 with a separated head restraint, but here it's really close. Just cool. Inside of the door, the Alcantara, and also here on the seats again. The BMW trunk is with 500 liters on paper, the largest, but here we have a lot of liters here and on the other side, but then again it's a little bit narrow here between the wheel arches, but it's actually quite high. 455 liters for the Mercedes trunk, also same length approximately and the same width between the wheel arches. I think here this plastic part here should not be there in this vehicle, but also very well usable like the others. And you can, that's the biggest advantage, fold the seats very easily from here. With another help, and there you can load things through. And the Audi at 460 liters, but I feel this one here has the best square dimensions. So they're all a meter or 40 inches in length or in width approximately, but this one I think among the best usable. The acceleration figure to 1 kilometers or 62 miles now is with all of them around 4.5 seconds, but they reach it with a different way. Here the Mercedes goes 4-cylinder now, really? Here you can see the stability or the strut bar or dome strut. 1, 2, 3, 4. For a C43, I doubt that's the right decision. However, performance-wise, it's all the way there. It even has the biggest horsepower output with this mild hybrid system of over 400 horsepower. The BMW Classic, the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder, probably to me the best engine in the test. I can already tell that so far. And around 370 horsepower. And it is the quickest, because there's like a 0.2 second difference than where this one is actually quicker. And we'll also soon go to the German Autobahn, launch it all the way out and see how is the acceleration in the higher speed, like 80 to 180 kilometers an hour or something like that. This will be very interesting. The Audi is a little bit special. In Europe, you get the 3-liter 6-cylinder diesel. In the US, you get the 3-liter 6-cylinder petrol engine. We'll also test drive both for you today, that you can actually compare them. So in Europe, I have to say the diesel fought a little bit out of the spec. However, for the driving performance and the behavior of the vehicle, it doesn't change much because it is still a rear-wheel biased all-wheel drive. They all come with all-wheel drive. You can also get the BMW in the US with rear-wheel drive only. The Audi and the Mercedes always then with all-wheel drive. The petrol engine, of course, in the US for the Audi is a little bit better as for the sound and also from the low torque area and so on. Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge, starting with the M340i, putting in Sport Plus and also in the S shifting mode. And we'll get on to the German Autobahn for the first acceleration. Let's go. Plop, that was like 42, 180 kilometers an hour. Wow. That was impressive indeed. Whew, this engine is so engaging. And if you compare the 3 Series 2-liter 4-cylinder versus the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder here, it adds so much to this vehicle here indeed. Wow, this is a huge difference. Recently we had our test of the more civilized versions of these 3 vehicles here. And this time, yeah, it is just the most engaging engine. The Audi 3-liter V6 you can get in the North American market for the S4. There's also a great engine, definitely. This one here just, so emotional. At the same time, it can also be very calm when we just go comfort mode and D-driving mode. That's actually really, really, really calm. And you can score great consumption figures even when you're going like cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour, 120 kilometers an hour, like 60, 70 miles an hour. This 3-liter inline 6-cylinder is more fuel saving than the 2-liter 4-cylinder. You can score better consumption figures indeed. It's quite astonishing, because you can always keep it at a lower RPM and so on. It's not, working so much. Of course, when you race it all the way through, use all of that horsepower, then of course the consumption will go up. But actually, it can also be quite economic. Well, not that great, but in comparison to the 2-liter 4-cylinder, it's not worse at all. In most cases, even better. That's really interesting thing. Let's go back into the Sport Plus mode and also in the S shifting mode. Here it's basically split. With the Audi, for example, it is always also connected, and with the Mercedes as well. Here with the BMW, you basically have the sport setting here for suspension and so on, throttle input, and for the steering that you have a little bit more feedback. By the way, really nice with this transition, a lot of fun. And then you have to go for the shifting also in that S mode, so that the RPMs are turned up higher and so on. So this split here, I'm not really sure why they're doing that. I think it's too complicated. If you would go to the sport mode, I think you would also want sporty shifting directly, right? Oh, listen to that. Woo, that's 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. Yeah, this engine is so much fun indeed. Wind noise at higher speed, I feel, is better, especially with the Mercedes. Actually, when we're really, really fast here now. Yeah, and also when we are driving a little bit faster, I feel that I don't have the best control of the steering. It's not that predictable, I would say, because here they made it that running straight is a little bit calmer, basically, you know what I mean? So here it doesn't do too much, and then when you get to this area, then it suddenly does more, and that is not that predictable like the other steerings. Yeah, but the engine, of course, there's even still an artificial sound here because everything is well insulated and so on. But you also get artificial boost in here. Lane change here, a lot of fun. Wow, really nice. Adaptive suspension we have also as an option built in here. Even in the sport mode, it is quite comfortable with 18-inch wheels. Now we go to the comfort mode. Then it's also a little bit more comfortable overall. And I think also when there are some bumps in the road, they don't get through to your lower back and so on. So here I found with the BMW, when you go for the adaptive suspension, you already add some more comfort. And then it's really about the wheel choice. So I had some rides with 19-inch wheels where I would say, maybe it's too rough in a way. But here with 18-inch wheels and the winter tires is actually quite fine. And I think they didn't exaggerate anything with this vehicle here and also with the suspension setup. So if you want like the super aggressive thing, you would of course go for the M3. Here the M340i still presents a balance that you want to have this car in everyday driving. Oh, also when you go off the throttle, Not sure how I can pick it up on camera, but going throttle and leaving it, plop, 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 plop. You got these exhaust notes there. It's just lovely indeed. So indeed, the 340i here, the thing that this one here does especially well is giving you so much emotion, and that is definitely connected to the engine. And now the Mercedes, let's go to the Sports Plus mode and accelerate it out. Let's go. That's 190 kilometers an hour. That went also very quick indeed. So pure performance-wise, you are not missing the 6-cylinder. The sound we're hearing is, of course, emulated. It's not that it would not be emulated in the 6-cylinders, but here it's just, let's say, more emulation. So yeah, the big question is here, is it worse when you know it's fake? Yeah, that might be also a question for other fields of life. Well, I mean, it doesn't sound too bad actually. And also when you go off the throttle, you also have some plop, plop, plop from the exhaust. It does feel cool and it does feel sporty. That's true. Steering here on the side, we have the microfiber one, and it's actually very well to control. Lane changes are also a lot of fun. Yeah, this one feels way different than the normal C-Class indeed. So I said with the BMW, it makes it basically a different vehicle mainly due to the engine. Here in the Mercedes, if you compare the Mercedes C-Class and the AMG C-Class, it makes it really a very different vehicle, not only from the engine. Yeah, we still have the 4-cylinder here, but suspension-wise, it's way stiffer. The steering also feels a little bit more engaging. Of course, you also have this AMG styling. Yeah, the whole car feels more like let's go attack it and so on. This is very interesting. Whereas with the Audi, there is not that large difference between a normal A4 and the S4. Yeah, and power-wise, of course, yes. But that's why the A4 is always some kind of this compromised balance between comfort and sportiness. And with Mercedes here, you feel the biggest gap between the normal version and the AMG version. That has always been the case. It's very interesting. Whereas with Audi, the transition between the different models in the lineup is really smooth always. With BMW, a little bit more gap, and with Mercedes, there's the biggest gap then between the normal and the AMG model. This is a very interesting finding here, definitely. It is also very engaging to drive. As for how natural the steering feels, well, it's super astonishing that when you compare the previous generation C-Class, that this is here now definitely more direct. This is actually very cool. I like that sporty feature, that the steering is just sportier overall. However, the most natural feeling in the comfort mode, it's really, really light. When we are in the sports mode, Sport and Sport Plus, I have a little bit more resistance. There's also an individual mode. You can also set up then, for example, that you make the steering itself just, a little bit harder in the reaction. That's also fine. But I think the most natural feeling is still delivered by the Audi, steering feeling wise. So by the steering, you feel most connected to the Audi. That's the thing. Other than that, suspension wise and also how the car behaves, you also feel really connected here with the C43. So let's go to the next Autobahn here. Another acceleration. Just have to see that no one is behind us. Let's see, and we can hear it once again. Let's go. 170. Wow, suspension is really rough in here. Woo! Yeah, that is actually the roughest suspension in the test. Been wondering about that. Interesting. So really less compromise. So whereas the Audi has biggest compromise, sportiness and comfort and balance, BMW then more in the sporty direction, and here, yeah, the Mercedes feels kind of sportiest. Also here lane change at higher speeds. Well done. It's actually also reasonably silent in here as for the wind noise, so good noise insulation in the C-Class, also a lot of fun. So I have to say, fun-wise, you don't miss the 6-cylinder. I still think a car in that size, in this segment, with that sporty approach should have a 6-cylinder. Even if it's just because, sometimes because is also important, you know. But from the performance, that's actually fine, you know. The only thing you don't get, yes, you get this sound emulation. What you hear from your ear, yes, that works. However, these low frequency vibrations that also account for this gut feeling from a 6-cylinder. This is done then in the BMW and in the Audi when you have the V6 petrol. The S4 diesel, nah, although it's a good engine. And here in the 4-cylinder Mercedes C43, you don't get this gut feeling vibration, you know. And I want to have that in a sporty vehicle. But besides that, it's also an awesome driving experience here. Oh, here once again now, getting off the motorway. Wow, it's a lot of fun. How quick it can be in the corner. Yeah, that's amazing. Also super engaging. Yeah, sound-wise, it's actually quite cool, and just from, you know, what you hear again. Wow. And I was at first very sure that the 3 Series would be like the most sporty, most fun, most engaging. But the C43 is really challenging that, so that is astonishing. I mean, also, of course, the overdrive has a rear bias. It's so much fun here also to move it around. Wow. What about the Audi? Plop, that's 180 kilometers an hour, really strong. Of course, here in the European version, this is the 3-liter diesel. However, the acceleration figure is kind of the same. There's just a difference that when you have that diesel, the torque is setting in later. And then on the Autobahn, when you're already at speed and using that torque, then it's really strong. Gives you good punch as well. The TSI, which you also get in the US, or then in the S5 convertible, you can still get it, for example, in Europe. That one is actually a little bit more instant torque, instant speed at lower speeds. Oh, directly when you hit the pedal. Here with the diesel, you have to wait like this second, and then it pushes massively. But what they have both in common, and this will also not change anything else about this review, both have the standard Quattro 40-60 distribution, so you always have a rear wheel bias indeed. And of course, also suspension and so on, and handling is the same. Here on the German Autobahn, once again, it really feels at home, so settled indeed. We have the adaptive suspension in here. I'm in dynamic mode, then I have a little bit more feedback from the road, but I can also go, for example, to the comfort mode. Then it dampens a little bit softer. It's actually very good in both cases, and that's the thing about the S models at Audi. They are always setting a tone on the perfect balance, actually. They don't want to go too much into the sporty direction. They really want to give you the perfect balance between sportiness and comfort. Like here now, this is a transition between two Autobahns. This is actually most fun to me. So some people say, wow, look at that here. Hardly have to use the steering wheel. I mean, really progressive, very nice. So some people say throttling it out on the Autobahn is most fun. I always say these transitions between two Autobahn, this is actually to me the most fun. By the way, one Autobahn, two Autobahnen, that would be like, you know, like the correct German thing. The plural of Autobahn is an Autobahnen, not Autobahns like the English plural. So, eine Autobahn, zwei Autobahnen. Listen and repeat. Eine Autobahn, zwei Autobahnen. Like one Autobahn, two Autobahn. So, and here, the next Autobahn. Wow, really good punch, good control, and you've really maybe seen I don't have to do much work on the steering wheel and how precise and calm the car is handling. And now as comparison, the Audi 6-cylinder petrol. Plop, that's over 180 kilometers an hour. Here, of course, a little bit more wind noise because this is here an S5 convertible. That's the way we can also test in Europe still this 3-liter V6 petrol in the Audi. And yeah, both have good punch, also the 3 to 6-liter diesel, but this, just has this V6 petrol note, and it's just more lively from the low RPM area. And yeah, that would actually be then the cooler choice, definitely, and also then comparable to the M340i from the BMW. Yeah, it's just so much cooler hearing that sound and also knowing that this isn't fake at all. Now let's sum everything up for you. Which one would you take home? Tell me in the comments. And which one would I go for? It's really tough because, well, with the Audi, you have the best balance between sportiness and comfort. And you also have the most direct user interface. Controlling it while driving is easiest. Exterior and interior is on the one hand most conservative, and it's also the oldest model in the test. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. In the EU, of course, with the diesel choice, I think that's not really appropriate. It's still a good and, good performance engine, yes, but I would expect this 6-cylinder petrol feeling then in this case. So in the US, it's definitely a great choice. And it's also a price choice because when you look at the concise prices, 84,000 euros, 92 and 97,000 euros for the Mercedes. So the Audi is, so to speak, the most affordable one. Of course, all are very expensive indeed. The BMW, one step further, more goes into a sporty direction already, but still has a good balance indeed. From the exterior, I like it best actually. Interior, since the facelift is of course a little bit more into the digital world, but still quite good to control, and has of course a little bit more modern touch than the Audi. Then the Mercedes, surprisingly, it is the sportiest in the test from the overall sporty driving feeling, because it has the stiffest suspension, especially in the sport setting. The steering is also quite sporty. However, the Audi steering feel is most natural, I have to say. But the Mercedes has this biggest gap between the normal Mercedes and the C43. Here with the normal 3 Series and the M Performance model, it's a little bit slimmer. And with the normal A4 and the S4, the margin is the slimmest actually. But again, that's not a good or bad thing. It's just, a different approach, a different strategy indeed. So I had most driving fun with the Mercedes, most engine fun from like the low frequency vibrations and so on with the BMW and best looks, and most interior fun and most balanced out feeling for an everyday driving perspective with the Audi. So they all have this different focus, and then the question is which one is most important to you. With the 4-cylinder in the Mercedes, the performance is there, no doubt about that. But again, these low frequency vibrations, you somehow feel this gut feeling. I think then here the 6-cylinder in the BMW just delivers you a little bit more. Which one would you take? Tell me in the comments. As for me personally, well, I had the most driving fun with the Mercedes. Indeed, that was super cool. And here in Europe, since I can only get the diesel for the Audi, it would be rather the BMW to get this 6-cylinder feeling indeed. Because, in Europe, this is then the only 6-cylinder you can get as a 6-cylinder petrol. In the US, there's also the 6-cylinder for the Audi available, so probably I would go then for the Audi in the US. And also seating-wise, for example in the UK, I can also get the perforated sensor tag in the BMW, whereas in Germany I can also get the microfiber, oh, we have a guest here today, the microfiber for the Mercedes, for example. So yeah, it's definitely a very, very tough choice. The question is if sportiness is the most important to you or more the balance between sportiness and comfort. Mercedes or BMW, I know this is your favorite comparison review here on Autogefühl with Thomas, and today it is about the mid-size segment, who is building the best mid-size sports coupe, BMW 4 Series in the recent facelift or the all-new Mercedes CLE. We're going to find out here with Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. This will be a super interesting comparison. As I said, the 4 Series of BMW, recently facelifted, different front grille, little bit small changes. Beautiful here with these bright accentuations, this dot design, large double kidney. This has been very controversial since the 4 Series was introduced. Also updated lamps here, also a different daytime running light. You can see it here in the front. Arctic Race Blue is this very vehicle color right here. Whereas with the Mercedes CLE, they have merged the C-Class Coupe and the E-Class Coupe to one segment. Technology-wise, it is rather on the C-Class, but it's also fitting then to the 4 Series here in this mid-size segment. This is here the high-tech silver color, and we have the AMG line. So we have this micro star pattern here also in the front, and this chrome in the lower part, this rather classic look. So very comparable cars also with the AMG line for the CLE and the M Sport version for the BMW 4 Series. Let's go on to the side profile. Later also more about pricing and so on, and we'll have an extensive Autobahn driving with over 200 kilometers an hour, over 125 miles an hour on the German Autobahn for both vehicles. This will be super exciting. We have up to 20-inch wheels. In this case here with the BMW, 19-inch wheels. We have 20-inch wheels with the Mercedes, so it will be also very exciting how it plays out as for the comfort and so on. The length here is 4.77 meters or 188 inches for the BMW. The Mercedes is 8 centimeters or 3 inches longer actually. The wheelbase 2 centimeters longer with the Mercedes, so not too much. But suspension-wise, there is actually a difference. So with the BMW, you have either the standard suspension, a fixed M suspension, or this adaptive M suspension. We have also equipped right here. It's also available on the Northern American market. Whereas with the Mercedes CLE, you have the standard suspension, a fixed sport suspension you can also get in the US. And then there is a tech package, and that is then a combination of a rear axle steering, 2.5 degrees, the rear wheels turn in the opposite direction, and also an adaptive suspension. However, this tech pack is not available on North American market. We can only get it here in the EU. Towards the rear, updated 4 Series with these laser tail lights. It's a new option. Yeah, they look a little bit more fancy and so on. Not sure if the laser technology is needed in this case, but yeah, that's a little bit playing with light, I would say. And in the lower part, we have real exhaust tips here, and the M Sport package adds these black contrast in the lower part. Then the CLE, it has like this yacht design, like this expensive boat design in the rear, where the lower part is also a little bit wider here than the upper part. I'm always missing the light strip here in the middle part with the black part, but I'm not sure. This is maybe like a matter of preference. And in the lower part, yeah, this is a case for the Autogefühl fake exhaust police for sure. These are pure fake exhaust, and you know you can also get a fake exhaust police t-shirt meanwhile. Or this one here, our Let's Go t-shirt. Or what about the normal logo shirt that Leah is wearing? Oh, that's also a way to wear it. We don't have girl size yet, but yeah, that's maybe a way the girls could wear it right now. Nice. And now back to the vehicles. Turning indicator wise, I think in the front they both look beautiful, different integration for sure. However, here in the rear, I think the BMW one is better, just with this rather straight, subtle line, because here in the Mercedes, it just looks old school, doesn't it? So design wise, I think it's very hard to pick a favorite actually, because the CLE more has this rather sensual design, whereas the BMW has a little bit more, let's say, German design, a little bit harder, a little bit more aggressive, I feel. It promises more sportiness, but will it also be true? We'll find out in the driving part. Which one is your favorite exterior wise? Already tell me in the comments. Exterior-wise, I'm a little bit undecided. I think that's really matter of preference. I like both from the exterior. Not sure if you have seen that before, but some kids anticipated our review location today and actually drew a beautiful road here for us. So whoever did this, thank you so much, kids. This is a beautiful piece of art. Key fobs, both nice, here with the M colors. If you have M Sport package, the Mercedes key is always the same, if AMG line or not, but both are actually quite nice. Which one do you prefer? Here, door closing sound. Nothing special with the Mercedes GLE, doesn't sound that good. Very rarely do we have cars that have frameless doors and then have a great door closing sound. In this case, it's not the case actually. Then inside of the doors, here everything covered and so on. In the lower part, then it's harder. From the inside door panel, there's just a rubber ground on the lower part, and the seat controls are here, and a lot of high gloss black used already here. Then we have a nice entry badge, and this is steering wheel, AMG line with 2 horizontal spokes with hashtag capacitive BS controls, not too good while driving, and everything digitalized, of course, with digital instruments and rather vertical screen. At the moment everything's off, soon I'll turn on everything. And I really like the air vents here in this turbine style, and they also have nice clicking sounds. That's what I really like. And the ambient lighting with the Mercedes is also pretty cool. We can see that while driving as well later. Then the seats, this is here the animal skin surface, really stiff. You can also get the Artico leatherette or MB-Tex. This is a little bit softer than with the Mercedes. And in the EU, you can also get a microfiber seating, which will also be more comfortable. There is a chance of rattling sounds in this vehicle, and it comes from here. This here. This like it's actually a nice adjustment for the head restraint, but the thing is that here, especially here, it's okay, but on the passenger side, it's even more loose. And this indeed has caused some rattling sounds when you drive at like middle speed, I would say, over some potholes and cobblestones or something like that. So yeah, I have to bear that in mind. We were wondering where it does come from, and now we actually found out. Then here, the seating with 189, 6'2", some headroom left. And the comfort here, especially here on the Mercedes animal skin seats, is really bad, honestly. So these seats are not comfortable at all. Again, it will be better with the other materials. I've tested it also in different vehicles here from the CLE, but already the base ergonomics of the seat. You can see that this seat is here designed to look good, but not to be most comfortable. That's the thing. Mercedes CLE cockpit always looks impressive. Now also the ambient lighting is on, and look at that, how it goes here in a central way around. And now we also see it here in the inside of the vents. This looks really beautiful. I love it. You can change the color, you can change the brightness, adjust it to your styling. So the first impression is always like, wow, look at that. Also beautiful here with the carbon fiber decor element. At least then we have a little bit less high gloss black, but you can see it here, especially in the middle console. This is a lot of high gloss black, and yeah, doesn't make the best quality impression than when you're really coming closer to it, actually. However, the middle console is nice here with the split opening right here, and there's enough space, 2 USB-C chargers. In the front, you slide this one open. The inductive charging pad is a little bit hidden way in the front there. Cup holders here are also a little bit flimsy, I would say, and they also don't hold the bottles that tight. What we have as a nice feature here is in the infotainment system, we have this summer mode. So here you have these floaties as the visualization. Yeah, Leah likes it. I find it a little bit more playful. I don't know, maybe that's yeah, matter of preference, definitely. But this is possible. You don't have to go for it, of course. This one here also equipped with a panoramic roof, and you can actually slide that open. One that really still opens. This is of course in the matter now, not like between the vehicles, but just like if you go for that option or not. We always try to find the vehicles that are really similar or comparable. In this case, this one does have one. So just to show you that here as well. So the cockpit definitely looks cool with all the air vents and so on. Let's check out the infotainment and the digital instruments. Driver POV. I really like the grip on the steering wheel here. And then yeah, these controls here with slides, not ideal. However, you can also press it, but then you press that whole thing basically. Digital instruments, nice to see, and you can also go for different stylings, for example here also with the sporty styling. You can also get a head-up display. Infotainment wise, you now get the recent update here with these large tiles, so it's easier to control, and also when you go to the settings and so on, you can change something of the assistance systems here. This is once again part of the summer mode, that you have some flowers here, for example, and in lights you can, for example, also easily edit the ambient lighting and so on. So pretty much straightforward. The climate control is always in the lower part. This is actually, yeah, I prefer the physical controls, but for climate controls, digital ones, it is relatively easy to reach. And CarPlay integration looks like this. Now to the BMW. Door closing sound is also nothing special. So yeah, as I said, rarely that we find some great door closing sounds when it's frameless. A Porsche, for example, does it good. Then inside of the doors, it's also wrapped tightly everything, also soft touch, also a nice build quality. And then inside of the doors, however, here, this doesn't even have a rubber ground, so this is not that well done, I would say, but nice M entry badge here, M Sport Pack. And then we have with the facelift a new steering wheel, always with a flat bottom. The base steering wheel would even be animal free, and that's a very good development. This one here, the M Sport, however, is not. We have real buttons here still at the steering wheel, nice and simple to press, and also new with the facelift. Some markets already had it with the model year before, but now for all here this integrated curved screen, but it consists of two different ones. Then seats here, standard in Sensatec, perforated. They are also, you see here, way softer than in the CLE. In the EU market, you could also get a new Perform text, like a microfiber fabric mix, that is also available. And indeed, the seating comfort here in the BMW is way better. So if we compare it, for example, the seat material that is available in the X5 or X7, that is even a level above that. But the base ergonomics here also, if we compare its 4 Series against the CLE, so it's definitely way better in the seating comfort. Headroom here is also more with 1A9-602. However, this one here also one then without a panoramic roof, that always costs some headroom. Cockpit overview of the BMW, not as, like high effect and so on like with the Mercedes, but we do have some subtle ambient lighting integration, for example here. This new curved screen, then what we can see here, the climate unit went into the screen, so we have lost here the manual climate control. That's a pity. I think that's a step backwards. It looks more modern, it looks cleaner, but it's harder to control, and especially also to compare the Mercedes. Here to change the temperature while driving is easier in the Mercedes, it's more accessible right here, and also is a little bit larger. So the climate control now is actually better with the Mercedes. Pre-facelift was better with the BMW actually. So more details to that. What's cool is that we still have the controller in the lower part, so we can control also the nice turning sound. We can control the infotainment system while driving from here. Middle console looks a little bit better here from the quality, and also here like the cup holders, for example. Inductive charging pad is easier accessible. However, here it is not cooled, so the phone will overheat. I would not use it actually. And also what I found bad with BMW is they make you only use wireless connection for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And that's a bad thing, because yes, it's meanwhile more reliable from the connection, but with Mercedes, for example, you can choose cable or wireless, and I rather tend to use the cable connection. It's more stable, the phone charges quicker, the phone doesn't overheat and so on. So I'm a fan of the cable connection for CarPlay and Android Auto, even though if it's old school. I just explained you why. At least it's good if you can choose, and BMW just forces you to use wireless only. They don't even offer the cable connection, and I don't know why is that actually. Middle console here, nice quality, it's really soft for your elbow. Open it, good quality and more space underneath, and there is, for example, my cable charging solution, even though if the connection for the CarPlay is still wireless then. Driver POV, better that we have the real buttons here, also for the cruise control, so that's easier to control. Then digital instruments, you can also change the layout right here, for example, but all of that you rather see than here when you really start up the vehicle like this. And then we also have a head-up display in the BMW as an option, and on the right side, let me turn off that again, you can see it better than here from the infotainment system. The thing is here that it is a little bit overloaded, so that it has a better overview in the Mercedes. Always go to the CarPlay, also here in the lower part. This is a nice integration, also very wide actually. rear seats of the BMW. Here I have to grab behind here, then it also slides forward like this. And then you can see this is the space that is left when I'm driving actually on the driver's seat. So for me it's really close. Nevertheless, let me get in here. So that's actually okay, I would say. If I can really fit here behind the driver's seat, let me try that as well. Carefully. Yeah, I think I can somehow squeeze in. So here, see, it does work. So here my legs go a little bit more forward like this. Headroom wise, also really close. I have to put my spine a little bit down. For a shorter period of time, I think it's okay. The leatherette here, the Sensación seating surface, you can see here, is also relatively soft. It's also perforated, therefore has like a passive kind of thing, passive cooling. You can also put this here down. Okay, yeah, that needs a little bit more help. Not the best solution, but then it's adaptive on the inside at least. Yeah, this mechanism is maybe not the best one I've seen, honestly, but the seating comfort from the material is actually quite good. It is cozy here, although you see it's not like a regular thing for 4 tall adults. A little bit better than here on the passenger seat or behind the passenger seat, where you can move this one a little bit more forward than the Mercedes CLE. Here you have to reach a little bit further back in there to reach that strap here at the seat. But then again, the seat belt is a little bit closer here to the pillar. That's a little bit better for the entry in and out. On the first hand, it looks closer with the seat there, but is it actually true? Remember, this is the longer vehicle, 8 centimeters or 3 inches longer and 2 centimeters more in wheelbase. And let's see, I also want to make me fit in behind the seat, that we have a comparison when I'm driving. Let's see about that. Yeah, so like how the knee is reaching over the seat, it's, I would say, comparable. The only thing is that but you cannot see that well, with my left knee, it's a little bit less space at the side of the seat. And also there's less space with the feet underneath the seat, actually. Headroom-wise is both limited with both vehicles. Same time, with the spines on. Here, once again, the aluminum skin surface, you can see it here literally, how it reacts to that. When I press it, it's way stiffer. This will be a little bit better when you have the Artico seats or the microfiber seats. Overall, yeah, this is a little bit darker here from that area. So the offering of space, I would say, is comparable. Little advantage to the BMW, and the seating itself is also a little bit more comfortable in the BMW, also in the rear. Trunk or boot check. This way. Trunk or boot check. Here we can also press it here at the key fob. That's a beautiful shot, isn't it? Lovely. Yeah, sorry. That's what makes my life happy, Car nerd stuff. Then we have 420 liters with the CLE. And underneath here, more space, and also this shopping basket. Why not? To fold the seats, I cannot do anything here. I have to go around. But first of all, the length here is a meter or 40 inches, a little bit more than a meter or 40 inches in length. And between the wheel arches here, also a meter or 40 inches in width. This here is a hard plastic area, and I don't think that is really a premium focused when you consider the price of that vehicle. Yeah, and then to fold seats, I have to go around. Here, this ski hatch. There we go. Hello. And then I can also fold down this individual, and there we go. The BMW at 440 liters, 20 liters more. And we don't have anything to lift up here, but then again, the whole thing is higher. So here where my finger is, that would be the height of the CLE trunk. And this is then the height of the BMW trunk, so a little bit higher than actually. However, the ground measures, like here, the length, meter or 40 inches, and here also meter or 40 inches is almost the same. It's just that this trunk here is a little bit more square in the dimension, I would call it that way. And then you can also release the seats from here. You could push it through here or with your luggage. That would also be possible, so a little bit easier in the solution, I would say. What you can, however, also do, and that is only possible then from the rear, here when you fold this up again, then you can also once again move this one down as a ski hatch. By the way, I don't have a specific personal brand bias or something. I have personal history with both brands. I literally grew up in the Mercedes W123 from my father. Then my grandfather, they had a BMW E30 in white. So I have a very strong personal connection with both brands actually from growing up. So I don't have a personal preference how this test is going to end. I'm really looking into a specific segment. When we have been testing BMW against Mercedes, we had actually different outcomes almost every time we did that. So that was very interesting. And we're going to look at the engines right now. So with the BMW 2-liter 4-cylinder, 3-liter 6-cylinder, petrol and diesel in Europe then, and we have here the 2-liter 4-cylinders today, 245 horsepower with the BMW and 5.7 seconds in the acceleration figure. That's half a second actually quicker than 6.2 seconds with the GLE 300. We have both in the all-wheel drive spec, by the way. This one here, 258 horsepower plus MHEV boost, so it has more horsepower on paper. Yet again, why is it half a second slower? The reason is weight. The GLE slightly longer with this 8 centimeters or 3 inches longer, but the crucial thing is really weight, 175 kilograms heavier here with the GLE, and I'm looking forward to if we feel that while driving. For the GLE, you, by the way, can also get a 3-liter 6-cylinder petrol engine. The main difference is here at the moment you cannot get a big diesel in the EU. However, for the GLE, they offer plug-in hybrids based on the 2-liter 4-cylinder. This is not available for the BMW. Sport mode and S shifting. Nice! Okay.
Crazy!
Well, that was 240 now. Interesting. Pretty good. I mean, this is not the specific performance model. It's only the 430i, so this is the 4-cylinder here, and for that, the performance was really very good. Like that one. And I mean, yes, here in the sport mode, you also have this pronounced sporty sound. I can show you the difference. So when I'm in the sport comfort mode, then accelerate. Then sport mode. More low frequency sonorous feedback. I think it's not exaggerated. I think in this case it's okay. Because sometimes we have this artificial thing which you maybe love at, you know, it's ridiculous or something. But here I think it's definitely okay. And if you compare now already the two vehicles here we have in our comparison test, this one here, the 4 Series as a 430i, is 175 kilograms lighter, and it does also 0.5 seconds quicker acceleration figure from standstill. I'm really looking forward how this sprint here goes with the GLE. Yeah, but this one was already a very, very good performance indeed. And well, we also have the adaptive M suspension here, so in the sport mode it's also stiffer. Yeah, I also see it with Leah when I look over to her and we are on bump. So yes, you do lose comfort in the sport setting, but it's still, I feel, good. Yes, we also have the large 19-inch wheels mounted here. I think the comfort is overall in a good balance. But definitely when you are in a sport mode, you just have the sportier reaction. That's also good. That's how it's meant to be. Also here back and forth, the car stays upright. Good feeling for the vehicle. However, in this comfort driving mode, it's just a little bit more forgiving here when we have some waves. And do you feel that difference?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because sometimes it's really good to talk to Leah as a reality check, not that I'm, you know, just feeling something or so.
You're right.
Thank you so
As
much,
always.
honey. Thank you so much, honey. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, but I'm telling that to her as well, so that's good. That's a good thing, right? So I think here the comfort mode definitely a nicer setting for long travels, and then you can also do it like this, like comfort setting for suspension, but then as shifting mode. Of because you can also just leave it in the normal driving modes and it's still fine. And I mean, not sure if you were realizing how fast we're going all the time. It's really silent,
crazy,
yeah. So we're going like 170, 160 kilometers an hour. And it's like 100 miles per hour.
It's like
nothing,
okay.
you know. It's like we can go on for this for hours and hours. This is also, by the way, a speed area where it would make a difference if you have the coupe or the convertible. These modern soft tops, they are very well insulated. They're really good, and on the normal motorway at normal speeds, it doesn't make a large difference. But when you're really driving very, very fast here, like in German Autobahn, then it does make a difference. So sound insulation-wise, the Mercedes GLE has to do something to beat this here. This was already pushing the bar up really, really high. I love that. I also like how calm the vehicle is reacting here on the German Autobahn, even at high speeds. It feels super safe and great to handle at all times. The only small thing, and I've been criticizing this since the existing of the all-new 3 Series generation, so years ago, is that the steering feel is not how it should be. It should be like the 3 and the 4 Series should have the benchmark steering feel at BMW, and it does not have. And what do I mean by that? First of all, there's shifting and sport mode here once again. Now in this nice S, Leah is already preparing to hold tight. Here, nice S combination and nicely out of the corners. Now back to the right lane. Beautiful. It's so much fun. I love that vehicle. That's great. Then back to the only thing I don't like that much. Here the steering, even in the sport mode, is a little bit without feel. And BMW did that actually on purpose because they said they wanted the vehicle to feel lighter. And it does feel light by that, and it does feel light and easy to control by that. Yes, that's true actually. And it works in a way, but at the same time, if you are like me and like also in a way a purist driver, then you say like, I want that more feedback from the steering, and it feels a little bit here, especially like in this very low degree angles, a little bit too light, you know what I mean? Yet at the same time, the engines they built are just great. There we go. It's so nice and flawless, and I mean, it's so good that you don't even miss the 3-liter 6-cylinder, which is of course awesome. And here we're above 200 again, and now at 220, the wind noises are picking up, and this is
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, and wow.
We can even talk.
We can even talk at 220. I mean, I wouldn't probably drive like 230 now for hours and hours, but this feels so effortless in this vehicle here. Wow, I'm really impressed. Such a great handling vehicle, a lot of fun, awesome. I think here 180 kilometers an hour is like a comfortable traveling speed here in this vehicle. I would say like, hey, let's go, like, you know, let's drive to the mountains, and then we could drive maybe like 5 hours with 180 kilometers an hour, if of course the traffic situation allows it, which usually it doesn't. But that would be really a comfortable traveling feeling here. And that is astonishing. So even more comfort than again in the normal driving modes. So the steering feel here, as I said, it needs more natural feeling to it, you know, and more resistance to it. Yeah, this may be where we disagree sometimes a little bit. Leah likes it when the steering wheels are a little bit lighter in the control. I prefer it when they have more resistance. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it contradicts my, you know, what I'm saying here. Because, for example, the Audi steering wheels or so, they are progressive. They are not heavy, but at the same time give you a natural feeling. And this one here is not that natural. It's still a lot of fun. Great vehicle, but I think they need to fix that steering feel here in all 3 Series and 4 Series, I feel, at least. So, and here we can do one more nice combination, because this is a very lovely corner. Yeah, I don't like it that I have to switch 2 things at the same time. I think when you go to sport mode, it should also go to the sport shifting. Don't you think so as well? Because with Mercedes or Audi, it is the way. Here, in this corner, there's like a bump inside. Beautiful, just going straight. Because some vehicles, when there's like in the corner and there's like a bump, they get like pushed to the outside. They hop a little bit, but here it does not happen at all. And that's really well done. Yeah, here once again, and I also have to look down to search for that. Not ideal, I would say. Then of course, assistance systems. We can set them here on the steering wheel, easily done. And you can also switch between off and on pretty quickly. When you have this green steering symbol there, it means that also the active lane keeping assist is active. I can also test it for you once again very soon. I'm just going here. Once again, it's exclamation, and yeah, it's so much fun. The whole chassis handling of the vehicle is great, and I feel even better in the normal comfort mode because then I don't have any comfort loss. At the same time, I do not miss any sportiness in that setting.
That's cute.
Oh, look at that.
A little bit.
That's nice. We already, because it's getting a little bit darker, as we have the ambient lighting here. That looks pretty fancy in that little area. This is also new here with the update, with the facelift, so it's pretty nice. I also like the steering wheel here with the flat bottom. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, as for the update here, it looks cooler. It looks more modern. Yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed by the loss of real climate controls here. There's always such a strange traffic light there. Yeah, and then here I have to do it in the screen. So yeah, this is more like 22 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, automatic setting probably because I don't like doing like finger around in the screen while driving, and not the best idea for sure. So let me show you here the assistance systems now. So there we go. Let's go to the left once again. So now I set the cruise control. There we go. And then let's see when the active lane keeping assist sets in. Waiting for the green symbol. There we go. So, and now the car is basically overtaking. It's still level 2 system. And you see here also when it's then going in a slight bend, is super calm from the steering reactions and so on. So really very sophisticated assistance systems. Just wouldn't trust a vehicle with that. So that's the situation where I rather overtake myself again. Yeah, this is perfectly fun here in this very vehicle. Mercedes, sport mode. Oh. Okay. Yeah, that was at least 190 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure if you saw that initially. I went to the sport mode because in the sport mode, obviously, like the shifting is optimized, but then like the vehicle was starting, but then like canceling that and then going back a gear and then starting again. I'm not sure if you saw that. I'm also looking forward to the time code, like when we do like the 50 to 150 or something, you know, how the acceleration difference is. The difference from standstill to 100 kilometers an hour is half a second actually in favor of the BMW. Here we have the higher horsepower figure on paper, but we also have 175 kilograms more of weight. Yeah, you feel that the BMW has, you know, has more spirit to it from the engine. Or what do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, you also feel it. No, crushing our test, photobombing it actually, with one hand and the other hand drinking. Yeah. Well.
And it's louder.
It's louder. It's definitely louder. I mean, you don't have to measure that. It's
crazy loud, yeah.
really, I mean, yes, we're driving 220 kilometers an hour now. It's, I mean, it is a high speed.
The BMW was silent.
Yeah, the BMW was more silent. Well, what I can actually do is close the sunroof.
The sunroof is already shut.
Sunshade. Wait, let's try that again. Close the sunshade.
Good. I'm closing the windows.
There we go. Because while driving fast, this is actually a better way. Or I just call, hey Leah, close the sunshade please. That would be the alternative. So let's see, I mean, yes, we have a glass roof here, which we didn't have in the BMW. But I don't feel that the extra noise is coming from there. It's more coming from everywhere, yeah. So, I mean, we had some tests where the Mercedes were the most silent ones, maybe like E-Class, S-Class and so on. That was really good in noise insulation. But here, actually, this is the one thing you feel, you know, CLE is a Frankenstein from the E and the C, you know. And yeah, it does carry both letters. But there you feel that the technology is rather C-Class, definitely. So, yeah, and I'm really surprised that the BMW is way more silent, actually. Yeah, and the engine has more spirit, as I said. Let's see here with lane change. That's good behavior. The steering feel is actually better here in the Mercedes. Who would have thought that? So, yeah, it's really nice. It has here a little bit of play, I would say. So I have experienced that even a little bit better with recent Mercedes model, but overall it's cool. In the sport mode also a little bit more resistance. The suspension
but
is...
for the passenger, it's heavy. For the tummy, it's cool.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you say
When
you
get the lane change, it's...
you feel less comfortable?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, what we do have here is, first of all, we have this is tech pack that is available in Europe. It's not available in the Northern American market. And this combines the adaptive suspension together with rear axle steering, 2.5 degrees rear axle or rear wheels in the opposite direction. And like this makes the car more agile, especially at lower speeds. Also gives a little bit of, let's say, artificialiness. But when we park in and out the basement garage, this is a great help. So sometimes you have to do like one less back and forth if you compare this one here with the rear axle steering against the 4 Series. This only counts in the comparison if you have the rear axle steering though. So it doesn't count if you don't have it available like in the Northern American market. Let's now check out this S combination here, which was Leah is already holding tight. Yeah, you feel a little bit more weight. You're getting into the corners. Yeah, then accelerate out. This is really nice. It's also a lot of fun. Good handling, definitely. But you feel it is, I mean, the wheelbase is not really larger than the 4 Series, although it might appear that way. However, with the rear axle steering, it's faking a shorter wheelbase. I also feel that the seats are not holding me that tight, like in the 4 Series. That might be also the thing that you are actually experiencing. Yeah, this is a blind spot monitor. Also reacts in here when I'm... Yeah, the engine just takes like a... In Germany we say a Gedenksekunde, like a thought second.
Like ages.
Yeah, and so there you go. But then, I mean, it has enough power, definitely, just in comparison to the 4 Series we just driven. Suspension is still doing a good job, I feel. Oh, we have 20-inch wheels mounted here, so one size larger than with the BMW, and I don't think we're noticing that. So the adaptive suspension...
It's better, I think, yeah.
Yeah? You like the suspension better here in the Mercedes?
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit...
Not so rough.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
And I think this point or this argument is even stronger since you have like the larger wheels here. So then the suspension really has to be good. So Mercedes here scores with suspension and the steering. The BMW scores with the engine, with the noise insulation, and definitely with the seats. Consumption, we can score with both some 7 liters on 100 kilometers, 34 mpg US, 41 mpg UK, with slight advantage to the BMW, but it's not a huge difference actually consumption-wise. Also pricing-wise, the BMW is a little less expensive, but not a large gap actually. It starts lower in the entry price. That's the key thing. So like $50,000, around 50,000 euros, 44,000 pounds. For the Mercedes, the entry price is a couple of thousand euros, dollars or pounds higher. But then when you equip the vehicle with a lot of extras and so on, the price gets a little bit closer. And both vehicles here, as I stand here right now, the BMW exactly 80,000 euros. and the Mercedes a little bit more than 80,000 euros. With the Mercedes, it's meanwhile harder to find out because so far I could receive from the manufacturers the exact list prices and with all the extras and equipment, but Mercedes now changed their configuration and pricing system. There aren't any prices from Mercedes anymore. And I'm not kidding even. So you cannot have a price list and compare the prices as a customer. You have to go to the configurator, add everything, and then you get a current day price for the vehicle. And that's why it also makes it much harder now for us to give you the exact prices of the Mercedes vehicles. I have to check then which option does the car have, then go to the configurator, add everything and so on, and hopefully didn't forget anything, and then check the price at this specific day. This is called dynamic pricing, and dynamic pricing has been a curse to customers in many areas, for example also for concert tickets and so on. So I'm not sure what strategy Mercedes is going there. They say it would be an advantage for the customer. I think it is a clear disadvantage, and it will make cars overall more expensive at Mercedes. That's, my take to this new development here. And now to our overall conclusion, which one would I actually take home? So exterior styling wise, I found both very beautiful. BMW with the sportier focus, Mercedes with the more sensual focus, I feel. Interior quality wise, goes to the BMW. It just gives you a more premium atmosphere. The Mercedes is more that it looks very cool at the first hand, but there's more high gloss black area and so on. And when you touch and squeeze things and so on, you see that the BMW has a higher quality from the interior meanwhile there. And also seating comfort definitely goes to the BMW. The seats, especially with the animal skin in the Mercedes, absolutely unacceptable or unacceptable. So you have to pick this one also with the Article leather red or with the microfiber if it's available in your country market. The BMW just way more forward with all the animal skin alternatives and so on, and they're also softer and way more comfortable. Driving wise, it was really interesting because the Mercedes has the comfort focus, whereas the BMW has the sportiness focus. So this one here feels so easy to control, even at 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, whereas the Mercedes has more dampening comfort, especially when you go over some bumps and so on. So you see the different focus of the two vehicles. So there the question is if you rather appreciate more driving comfort suspension-wise, or you feel more one with the vehicle. And that's the thing about the BMW. It feels more, let's say, like going full circle. This is your combination driver, car and road, whereas the Mercedes is a little bit disconnected there, but then the driving feeling is a little bit better. So it's always pro and con and so on, but the BMW to me feels more like a driving machine. And then again, the plus in adaptive suspension comfort that I get with the Mercedes, you only get this package here in the EU market, not on the Northern American market. That means it will be less comfortable in the Northern American market. And since the better seating comfort in the BMW can basically even out or even overweigh the better suspension comfort in the Mercedes, together with the more driving fun, the BMW would be my choice here today.
So which one would you actually go for in which very segment? Tell us in the comments and why. And my verdict here for the individual pairings is S-Class or 7 Series. Here I would actually pick the 7 Series because I found it more fun in driving. It has better seating comfort and overall a better luxury experience also for the rear seats, especially if you're a little bit taller. And you can also get it with animal-free seating. E-Class versus 5 Series, that one is actually really close. Both cars have their pros and cons. However, after driving it back to back, I actually decided for the Mercedes E-Class because it just gave me a better driving experience with the air suspension, a more floaty ride actually, and I also feel that the E-Class has something very special inside the Mercedes portfolio. Doesn't mean that the 5 Series is bad or something, not at all. The 5 Series is also a very good choice, definitely, but just in this very head-to-head comparison, I felt even better a little bit with the E-Class. However, the 5 Series has once again the better seating options. GLE versus X5. This one actually was pretty clear that the X5 prevails here. The BMW X5 has a way more luxurious feeling on the inside, better seating again, more comfortable, also animal-free choices, and also the whole vehicle concept seemed more fitting to today's needs. The GLE feels a little bit outdated in comparison. Also, especially with their GLE and GLS lineup, Mercedes has fallen behind as for the reliability rankings. Then GLC versus X3. Here once again I would go with the Mercedes because the GLC has in this segment here a more luxurious experience than the X3. It has more modern technology, rear axle steering for example, and also a very floaty air suspension. So here in the mid-size SUV segment you can get the best driving comfort with the GLC. It has also good seating options, for example. You can get it animal free, what's important to me. Just gives you this more premium feeling. Note that this one is here against the previous generation X3, recently updated, and this new generation X3 you will already find single reviews from us, and as soon as we can repeat this comparison, we will soon also once again do GLC versus the new generation X3, so stay tuned on our channel. C-Class versus 3 Series, this was very tricky actually because the C-Class has a lot of fun in driving and a better steering, whereas the 3 Series offers in some ways the better overall product and also most of the time at a better price. This also really depends, for example, if you take the performance models like we had here, the M340i against the C43. Yes, 43 has a lot of driving fun. Yet again, the M340i has this 6-cylinder, which is of course also very important for the driving experience. So very close call here, maybe with a notch to the 3 Series. The same also accounts for CLE versus 4 Series. The CLE has the better, more comfortable suspension. However, the seating in the CLE is especially like one of the worst overall, I really have to say that. And so overall, the 4 Series, together with a little bit lower price, made the race here. So you can see it really depends also on the segment which brand I would prefer for the individual choice. That is a very interesting finding also to me. In some ways they're very close. Then again, in general it seems that BMW has a little bit more focus on the driving fun, whereas Mercedes has a focus on softer suspensions, just very generally speaking. And I think that the steering is very good with the BMW SUVs especially, whereas with the 3 Series the steering feel is not as good as the C-Class and the CLE nowadays have. Then in general, talking about the brands, so BMW has actually improved in the reliability rankings in the recent years, whereas Mercedes went down with that. And also if we look at the customer experience, the feedback we have on our channel in the comments, a lot actually say that they have made better experience with BMW than with Mercedes, especially in the recent years. So Mercedes does have more sales problem at this moment. And also if you take a look at these sales figures at this moment, BMW sells more cars than Mercedes and actually also way more than Audi. So in general, as for the brand, it seems to be that BMW prevails over Mercedes at this moment. Also, what you have seen that BMW has earlier begun to set more sales on sustainability, and this is also paying off for the customer, also for transparency in the supply chain and so on. Doesn't mean that everything is great at BMW. They recently also released that they have this huge braking problem from a supplier. They are now fixing that, so there can always be drawbacks, but the overall general strategy seems better with BMW. For example, also that they have this multi-powertrain approach. They went for one assembly line in the factory and just produced the same model with different powertrains. Mercedes did split it, had huge fails, for example, with the Mercedes EQS. Now they want to go the BMW way, produce an S-Class and electrify it. So it seems to be that BMW is more flexible to react to, hey, are they buying more EVs, the customer, or other EV sales are going down again and so on. So BMW can react better on the customer demand, and Mercedes is not as flexible in that. But then again, to make the topic even more complicated, now BMW goes again for a separated platform for their new EVs with the iX3, the Neue Klasse concept. There will also be an electric 3 Series. So we'll have to see how that plan then plays out. And both brands have the massive problem that they lose sales in China, so their profitability goes down because the Chinese EV makers now sell their vehicles to the Chinese audience, whereas BMW and Mercedes have less share then. Also, Mercedes wants to ditch the very small cars, the compact segment, so we have to see what news awaits us there. And if they keep on with that strategy, Mercedes really want to go even higher premium in the luxury, even more higher margin, and then maybe also losing customers who are actually taking their first step into the brand, which then BMW or maybe Audi could take over again. So these are my rough estimations. Of course, both brands have still a lot to offer. Tell me what you think about the development of both brands, and we will keep you entertained with more comparison reviews.